Yo, yo, yo!
The only show. Guys, we have two amazing guests here. One is Mike Nellis, but before we get to him, for all the people who don't know you, Hutch, can you introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do?
I'm a gaming sex icon. I'm an equestrian, a philanthropist. I'm a lot of things. I wear a lot of different hats.
Cool. Well, it's nice to meet you because we've never seen you before. It's been so long, might as well have. But welcome back, Hutch. Everyone.
No, yeah, it's good to be back. My parents got pretty fucked up in a car accident that could have gone so much worse, but thankfully they were just a little banged up, but they needed some help, and now I'm back though. So yeah.
I said you were quiet quitting. Not true, Hutch?
No, I love it. I love doing this podcast. So,
okay.
Yeah. All right. And our second guest, even newer, Mike Nellis. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you.
Yo.
You know, I had a whole bit about being Starsky to Hutch, and then now I feel like I can't do it because he said that thing about his parents.
Oh no!
Oh no!
So, Mike, welcome to the show. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a Democratic strategist. I've been working in the space for 2 decades now. I'm a former senior advisor to Kamala Harris. I run the Substack Endless Urgency, and I'm now a YouTuber, which is very weird. And I don't know. I live in Chicago. My wife and son. I'm a Libra because somebody said Aquarius earlier. So I'll just get that out there and in front of it. Yeah, that's me.
All right. Former senior advisor to Kamala Harris. So what you're saying is we can blame you for what?
No, I was on the 2019 campaign. You can blame me for the 2019. Different type of pain. So
you didn't show up to the pod save recapitulation after the election loss.
God, I hated that so much. I felt bad for everybody involved. I was like, nobody wants this right now. Just be quiet, you know.
It was very painful to watch. I'll have to be honest.
It is. I feel bad for everybody involved. It was an absolute mess. And really, we have like 4 or 5 people to blame that were all around Joe Biden. Those are the real criminals.
Based.
Okay,
Mike, can I ask you how'd you get into this field?
Yeah, I was a young kid and a bad student at the University of Nebraska, and I was protesting the Iraq War every chance I got. And I turned on the TV one day, and there was this little-known Illinois Senator, Barack Obama, who was running for president of the United States, and he announced his presidential campaign on the steps of the Iowa State Capitol. And he said, and I remember this, I'm going to do my bad Barack Obama impersonation. Don't cancel me. But he goes, I'm going to Iowa. I just remember him going, Iowa. different use of syllables. And I got in my beat up red Ford pickup truck, and I drove to his first rally at I believe it was, somebody needs to fact check this because I've said it before and I don't think it's right. Morningside Community College in Iowa. It was across the river from where I lived in Omaha. Showed up at the first event, showed up like 4 hours early and was like, do you guys need help? And you all know this because you're good libs. Every Democratic staffer is overworked and doing the job of like 5 people. So they were like, yes, please. And I set up chairs at the event. I manned the media booth, and the rest is kind of history. I did I was like a fellow, I think was my term, which was a fancy way of saying we ain't paying you. And ended up getting my first job on a Senate campaign in Nebraska, and then was a finance assistant. So I was getting the candidates like chewing tobacco and making sure that they made their calls, which was the worst job in politics. And one day somebody was like, hey, Barack Obama raised a lot of money online. Do you guys somebody want to try to figure out how to do that? And I was like, give me literally anything else on this campaign to do, because I hated being a finance assistant. And 20 years. Yeah, 20 years later, I have no other useful life skills. So
can I ask, this may be a stupid question, but what does a strategist do? Because obviously you're going to come up with strategy, but like, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis, and what's the job entail?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you, Democratic strategist is a made-up term. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, I have the term Democratic strategist because it gets me booked on TV. Otherwise,
but there's so many of them.
I know.
I'm always hearing from them in op-eds.
But most of them have no idea can I curse on here?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Great. Most of them have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Okay, like this is the thing. I titled myself Democratic strategist because I started getting some TV bookings, and somebody was like, you should just call yourself that because you'll get more, because that's the media lingo for I work in Democratic politics. Like, that's what it means. There are people who are legitimate strategists that know what they're doing, that actually work on campaigns. I would argue that I am one of them. Chuck Rocha would be another person that I know is out there who uses that term. But I turn on the TV all the time, and this is part of the reason I started doing more TV hits on like Fox and News Nation and MSNBC and CNN. As I turn on the TV, and there'll be some Yahoo I've never heard of, which is weird because I've worked in this space for a while, and they'll be like, here's how the Democrats can win elections and blah, blah, blah. I know what to do. And I Google them, and their biggest race is a city council race 12 years ago. And they're like a college professor somewhere. And I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. And then people on the internet believe them. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a go, because I've at least worked on some big campaigns, and I think I know what the hell I'm doing. I don't get it all right.
Well,
But
I was going to ask
try.
on that, like, because I know some Democratic strategists who apparently aren't real jobs, and I asked them, when you like move campaigns or when you update your resume at the end of an election cycle, if your candidate lost, do you say which one you worked on, or you just say I worked for Democrats?
No, I mean, I've always embraced, like, I've worked for a lot of losers. Okay. Like, there's just no way around that. I would argue I've won more races than I've lost, I think, over time. But you don't really get punished for losing in the Democratic Party unless you do something, in the Republican Party either, for that matter, unless you do something catastrophically stupid. And I do think this is just one of those things I'll argue with people on the internet about, is you can do everything right and still lose the election. And you can do everything wrong and still win. And we've seen plenty of examples of that. I would argue that Donald Trump did a lot more wrong in 2024, but the fundamentals of the election made it a lot easier for him to beat Kamala Harris because Democrats made a lot more mistakes than he did. So, and if like 180,000 people vote differently in 3 battleground states, we're having a conversation about that dumb Madison Square Garden rally that Donald Trump had 7 days before the election. So I just think, like, losing, unless you do something stupid, which there are a lot of people that do stupid stuff. Like, I worked on Kamala Harris's 2019 presidential campaign. You can Google it. It was not a fun time for anybody. There's a million Politico stories where people are leaking on each other. But if you ask most people who worked on the campaign, who watched the campaign, they would say, hey, the digital was really good on that campaign. They raised a lot of money. They did a lot of good. So, like, I came out of that better off, even though the campaign was a disaster.
Are you the inceptor of the term K-Hive?
No, I am not. I might be responsible for creating the K-Hive, though, and I apologize to everyone who's ever been harassed by them. So, I also was on Bernie's 2016 presidential campaign, but I claim nothing for the Bernie.
Oh.
I want none of that smoke.
So 2019 was kind of like peak pendulum swing away from Trump era. You had a number of candidates that were up on the debate stage that were trying to occupy the same lane as Bernie. Do you think that something like that is going to happen again in 2024? Do you think the party is going to move away from some of that stuff?
I mean, I think it's got to move.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got, so one, I think it's the biggest swing away from Trump so far, because just wait, we're going to watch a massive swing away from him this November and then in 2028 if the economy continues to get worse. But I mean, look, I think that the race to be the most like liberal, woke human being on the planet in 2019 and 2020 was pretty bad for the party. And my general view of this is, and I want to say up front, like, we should not be abandoning anybody in the Democratic Party tent. I hate when people come on these shows and they're like, we need to abandon trans people. And I'm like, no, we don't. No, we don't. We had to figure out a better way to talk about it because a lot of people don't understand it and Republicans use it as a wedge. And that's clearly something that cost Kamala Harris a lot of votes in the election. But I do think, like, there was like this sort of reductive race to be like the anti-Trump all the way to the left to win the primary thing. And I'll note that the one candidate who didn't really do that was Joe Biden, and he was the one who won the primary in the end. And I think for Democrats, like, we do need to moderate on certain things, which is going to be pretty obvious in my opinion. But like, I think the way we talk about immigration is broken and created an opening for Trump to do what he's doing now. I think the way we talk about culture and act like people's HR department needs to change. And I think we have to rechange that perception. But I'll also say on economic issues, I think we should be pivoting full populism. Like, we should be providing a direct and immediate way for the government to help improve people's lives at a time when the economy is absolutely wrecked. Like, we should be talking about daycare and childcare and Medicare for all and all those things that, by the way, Donald Trump said last week we don't have money for, while also asking for $200 billion to blow shit up halfway around the world. So I think there's.
I want to ask. Here. Oh,
yeah, take it. Sorry.
My apologies.
I talk a lot, so just interrupt me when I'm talking too much.
No worries. Do you agree with the following proposition? The 2024 race was winnable for Kamala.
Yes, it was.
Why do you agree with that? I mean, you mentioned all of the institutional factors that were against her. How was it winnable, and where did we fail?
Yeah, well, I think, like, first of all, let's bifurcate this into two sections. Like, there's what should have happened, which is Joe Biden should have not run for re-election. And I think, like, most people agree with that, but you'll find, I'm sure there's people in the comments right now who are like really mad at me for saying that. But like, Biden should not have run given his age, given his health. They should not have covered that up. That's what they did. And I'm willing to say that out loud when a lot of other people aren't. I think if we had had a full, vibrant Democratic primary, the same thing we would have had, like we had in 2008 when Hillary ran and Barack Obama ran and John Edwards ran and Chris Dodd and a whole bunch of other people that you guys are probably too young to even remember half of the names of the people I talk about.
I remember Chris Dodd.
You remember Chris Dodd? Do you remember the fire truck?
Yeah.
A little fire truck. It was awesome.
Oh
anyway.
no, I don't remember that moment. No.
Okay, I could talk all day about the 2008 primary. I may have peaked as a human being there because there's so much weird political knowledge I have in my head. But we should have had a full primary, and one of two things would have happened: either Kamala Harris would have had an opportunity to build out her team, grow as a candidate, fully develop, and be ready to take on Trump in the general, or another candidate would have risen to that moment. Right? You would have had a Gretchen Whitmer, or Cory Booker, or whomever. If AOC ran, was AOC old enough to run in 20? I'm not sure on her age whether or not she's old enough to run.
No.
In 24. No, she wasn't. Okay. So like somebody would have risen. Maybe Pete Buttigieg would have risen. I don't know. And I think we could have beaten him because people hate Donald Trump. Okay. They voted for him even though they hated him. Now, then you get to the Biden debate and the fiasco that was. And I'll tell you from looking at polls for clients that I had in New Jersey and New Mexico and other states, it was a really scary time to be a Democrat. Like we were at risk of Donald Trump getting 58 Senate seats. And that would have been a catastrophic disaster. Like that's Matt Gaetz as Attorney General covering up the Epstein files. That's the difference between that. And so I think I'm glad that he stepped down. I'm glad that Kamala stepped up. I think she saved us. I think the challenge she had in the race, you get a lot of people that complain about like the Liz Cheney stuff. I don't know what polling data they saw that led them to that. So I'm not going to like criticize that without more information. But I do think they needed to let Kamala be Kamala, not to quote the West Wing, which is the worst thing a Democratic strategist can do on the internet, in my opinion. But like Kamala Harris, I got to spend not a ton of time, but some time with her privately because we shared an office for like a year and a half. She used to do call time in my office in DC before I moved. Like she's a very interesting, warm, smart, clever, funny person. She's tough. She's very scary to a 20-something-year-old Mike Nellis, to be honest with you, because that same intensity that she brings to like, bury Jeff Sessions at a committee hearing or yell at Brett Kavanaugh, however you want to describe it. She brought that to like me checking in on the digital reports. But like I wanted people to see that intensity. I wanted there to see that warmth. And we never really got that. And some of that is because she didn't do a lot of podcasts and YouTube shows to get comfortable with that format. And then she was surrounded by a team, Biden's team basically, that didn't trust her to go do that. And so I am somebody that's like, she should have gone on Joe Rogan. She should have gone on Theo Von. She would have charmed the shit out of them. And she would have won. I think she could have won. I really do.
She's scrappy. She's been scrappy her whole life. And I think she, people are dismissing her chances in 2028. And I'm not sure why they're doing that. I feel like there's a very decent chance that she's going to win this primary. And I feel like if you give her a full campaign and to use your language, just like let her be her, I think you're going to see that scrappy, aggressive side of her where she's not going to be on defense this time. So I don't know. I would not count her out for 2028.
I wouldn't either. And I think, again, I think a lot of people forget the pathway to becoming the Democratic nominee goes through black voters in the South, and black voters in the South love Kamala Harris. Like they do. And she's earned that. That's earned trust, by the way. And so unless you have an answer for that, I don't know how you win.
Do you think that's why she endorsed Jasmine Crockett, knowing that she probably wasn't going to win, just to maintain her base of black voters?
I have no idea, but I did not enjoy that decision. I thought that just was really silly.
Oh, really?
No,
why do you think she endorsed Jasmine Crockett then?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I mean, I think Tallarico was running a better campaign. The writing was on the wall of who was going to win that. I don't understand that, but at the same time, like I don't have the information that she had in front of her. I don't know what political decisions that they were made. So like I guess I say this as a pundit, like it's easy to do the Monday morning quarterback stuff, but I don't know. I would not have advised that endorsement, frankly.
You say that the Democrats should just lean fully into populism, but there are examples of this working to great success. Mamdani and Tallarico, I think, are really good examples of. There are different kind of brands of populism, but they're definitely both populist kind of campaigns that they're running. But you also have examples like Spanberger and Sherrill, who won by aggressively campaigning on what they're calling affordability, or we can just say the economy, or just improving people's material conditions in that way. And they did it without the populist framework. I think there's like a couple risks when you do populism. The first is that I feel like it sets up false promises. So if we lean fully into like left-wing populism, we're not going to like get rid of billionaires, right? So that's not going to happen. The most that's going to happen is we're going to tax them more, and the general structure of the economy is probably going to stay very similar. And also I feel like it oversimplifies kind of complicated things. Like, do we have to run populism in every race, or can we just run it strategically where it seems to be resonating with those voters? Another example would be like Maine with Plattner, obviously.
Yeah, well, I actually think Zoran's a terrible example of this, and not because I don't like Zoran. I thought he ran a great campaign, but because whatever happens in New York City is not representative of literally anything that happens anywhere else in the country. And my least favorite question that I got all the time was from people that were like, "Oh, are we going to have 1 million Zoran Mamdanis in the Democratic Party?" And I was like, "Sure, if they all run in New York City in a ranked choice election with public financing, and they all run against Chris Cuomo, or excuse me, Andrew Cuomo. I just confused all the Cuomos. My apologies to Chris if you're watching this. You're nothing like your brother. So far better facial hair at minimum. If you've seen the mustache that he grew.
But did you see him like confuse the AI video of AOC? That was a bad moment. Did you watch that?
Yeah, that's not great. Chris, I did see that. I like Chris Cuomo, but like every now and again, I'm just like, buddy, I don't know. He's also always trying to get into fights with my buddy Adam Mockler, and I'm like, okay. But to answer your question, like I am a big believer that people should run where the voters are to the extent that you can. Obviously, you can move voters with you, but when I say economic populism, I'm not suggesting we go full DSA. Like, I don't think you should be running on a platform that's like, we're going to eliminate all billionaires. Like, I hate the phrase, like, every billionaire is a policy mistake or whatever. Cause like, no, there are some billionaires that like actually earned that. And I would think like Taylor Swift, like nobody is complaining that Taylor Swift has $1 billion and she earned the shit out of that. And I think there are other people.
I think Kanye deserves it.
You think Kanye deserves it?
Yeah, well, Taylor stole that from him.
Okay.
No.
I was trying to come up with a joke. I didn't have one. I was being like, how do I tie this to APEC?
That's a 2007 reference. Sorry.
Do you think that the nominee in 2028 should run aggressively on populism?
Yeah, I do, on economic populism. I think you have to have.
How would you frame it? What's your version of economic populism?
I think it's about having the government should have be creating a framework. Like I always talk about it like this, and I'm not running for president, so I'm on the spot here. But like I would say, it's like you should be able to take a risk in your life, and then you can only fall this far, right? There should be a floor. That's what the social safety net is supposed to be about. And when the social safety net was actually intact, like people were okay when they fell this far. And so I think now the challenges are so much different. Like one, they've just gutted things like Social Security and Medicare. They've gutted school lunches for kids. They've gutted so many other programs. But like we need to deal with daycare. We need to provide people with support who are taking care of their parents right now because their parents don't have enough money and don't have access to healthcare. Like I want there to be a framework for this is what the American dream is. And this is what I want you to be able to achieve. And for me, the American dream is you should be able to work hard, get a career, buy a house, get married and have kids if you want, retire with dignity, take a goddamn vacation every now and again. Maybe have a hobby. God forbid people have a hobby that isn't doom scrolling on the internet. So if you can do those things, that's essentially what most Americans want out of life. And we need to be able to provide them with a way to do that. I think there's one other thing on top of it, and I have not figured out how to message this yet. So this is like slightly raw. It's just something that's like in the back of my head is, I was talking to my brother not that long ago. My brother is married. He and his wife both work, and they don't have like, great paying jobs, but they have decent paying jobs, and they make probably like 150,000, 160,000 combined would be my guess. They're able to buy a nice house back home in Nebraska. They're taking care of their daughter with some developmental issues. They have another kid on the way. And I was thinking about it as like, think how hard people worked to create the conditions for like women to go enter the workforce and be able to have a career and have a job the way that my sister-in-law does. And then now that's like a requirement of being able to like own a home. Like you have to have 2 incomes. And that's not equality. I feel like, and again, maybe this is like shitty or like I'm going to get wrecked on this. So I'm on a podcast with all men, so maybe it won't matter. But like I feel like corporate America sort of convinced women to go into the workforce, and like it's not real equality right now when you have to do it. Like, and so I think that the political party that can come up with a solution to how do I create the conditions for people to be able to buy a house and retire with dignity and take care of their family on 1 income. And I'm not saying we go back to Leave It to Beaver where it has to be the man who has the income. I think they win. I think that party rules for decades if they can really figure it out. Does that make sense?
I want to let my co-host jump in, but I got one more question for you because it relates to this, because there's some reporting this last week that the Democratic leadership, the party, are considering adopting a policy of not taxing the first $70,000 for joint income for married couples. This seems wildly regressive to me. If we are going to be the party that has robust social spending programs and social safety nets, we need a tax base to do that. And I feel like that's going to be a really difficult thing to undo if we do that. I'm curious if you have thoughts on that.
I mean, I don't really have a problem with cutting taxes for like people who make less than, let's say, like $200,000 a year if it's a joint family income. I think that part of the thing that I worry about is when Democratic think tanks put their policies together, they're always like, it's the blah, blah, blah act. And the blah, blah, blah act is you file Form 59B. And when you file Form 59B, you get 5-cent tax reduction on your blah. Like, it's just so boring and not at all interesting. And the actual problem isn't that people are being overtaxed right now. There's a lot of people who are being undertaxed right now in the billionaire class, the Epstein class, et cetera. But wages are not growing. Like, that's the real problem. Wages are not growing. Everything's getting more expensive. You can't afford to buy a house. Democrats don't have a good answer for that right now. Republicans don't even acknowledge that it's a problem, but Democrats don't have a good answer. So I think the core of your critique is right. We need a tax base, but that tax base is going to come from retaxing the shit out of billionaires again. I don't know how much money, like, you know, making tax-free the 70,000 is, but we got to have answers on like wage growth, jobs, particularly as AI and robotics just obliterate entry-level jobs right now. Because that's
and those answers need to sound good. I mean, you mentioned that in
Yes.
your sort of aspect there about communication. One thing that I have a lot of frustration with, and it raised its head during the 2024 election, and it's raising its head now vis-a-vis the war, vis-a-vis immigration enforcement, where there's a disconnect between the policy and what people understand. And so you have a great deal, I would say, of like MAGA influencers, or certainly of Hispanic voters, who seem like shocked that Trump is either respectively doing a war in Iran or doing mass immigration enforcement in a way that is detrimental to the interests of Hispanic voters. And certainly when it comes to like the economic message, all of this was predictable if you're in the weeds like us following what Trump is doing. But for whatever reason, people didn't seem to take seriously the threat of Trump and connect the policy goals that they have with whatever candidate is better for those goals. So talk a little bit about that communication deficit or mismatch.
Yeah, well, and I'm going to get this wrong, but my buddy Pat Dennis, who's the CEO of American Bridge, says that the average American thinks about politics 7 seconds every day, and I think about politics 7 seconds every 7 seconds. So the difference in the gulf between you guys and me and the rest of the American people is just so different. And I think sometimes, by the way, that gets interpreted as like, oh, people are stupid. They choose not to be informed. No. They're busy. That's what's going on. Like the average American, I tell my clients this all the time. It's like, they'll get mad because they'll spend like $1 million in an ad campaign and they'll be like, why do only 12% of voters know this about me? And I'm like, well, because your average voter is working 2 jobs to take care of 3 kids. And then lucky if at the end of the day, they can drink a beer and watch football. Like that's it. That's what the average person is going through right now. So they're being ground down and they don't care about you because they don't think you care about them, period. So I think we have to simplify everything. So like it has to sound good. Yes, that's a huge part of it. It's also got to be good policy. And I think there's 2 different pieces of that because Trump is sort of, and Bernie did this too. Bernie was like, if you ask people what Bernie Sanders stood for, it was Medicare for all, it was free college. Like it was easy to articulate those things. I think Democrats need to lean on that. Same with Trump. It was build the wall, drain the swamp, no tax on tips. Like coming up with those slogans is important and then repeating them over and over and over again. So it's what people remember about you. But the policy also has to work. And like, you get people who get mad at you when you say this, but like Joe Biden inherited a mess, but a lot of Biden economics, whatever you want to call it, Bidenomics, and I think he said that a lot. I think I just got triggered and I'm fully back in like 2023, 2024 land. But like, it was predicated on him having a second term. It was predicated on the American people having time and grace to give him in a post-COVID economic world. And maybe the political talent that was prime Joe Biden could have sold that moment and convinced people to wait another 4 years. But I think Democrats need to stop assuming that we have another 4 years. Like we need policy that people feel now. Because people are getting killed and they've been getting killed for 20 years right now. Ever since the Wall Street crisis in 2008, like people have been getting further and further away from ever being able to achieve the American dream. And I just, if we don't come up with some ideas that people feel right away, we're going to get screwed again. And I think the other thing I'll add here too is every election of my lifetime, except for 2012, has been a change election. So if you look at it, people are just oscillating wildly back and forth between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, and they're crying out for help. So when you look at a voter profile and it's Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump, a lot of people look at that person and go, well, that person's a racist. They turned against Obama. You're like, they voted for Obama twice. They voted for Kamala Harris in 2020. So you can't blame it on racism. You can't blame it on sexism. You can't do the sort of like lazy DC style of let me blame the voters for it. Be like, that's on you. Like you're not providing them with solutions. So they're just oscillating wildly back and forth between people. And they're going to go to the person that they trust until that trust is broken.
I did want to jump in on your point of like affordability and how we need to convince American voters that they can live the American dream. I do think you said you didn't work out the messaging on this perfectly, but the idea that this is a consequence of kind of forcing women into the workplace, I think is kind of bad optics because you're kind of.
Oh, I'm not saying it's about forcing women into the workforce. I'm saying it's that we got conned. Like we got conned into believing that it was okay. So both families are going to go work, but your quality of life isn't going to raise. Like if 2 people are going to work, that's fine. I got no problem with that. My wife works. I have 0 problem with that. The problem is you are now working twice as hard as a family unit for a lower quality of life than my mom and dad did. You know, my dad on a single government salary. So like, I don't have the messaging down on that. So like, I'm just talking
the way it was phrased. It's very evocative if you hear like Christian nationalists talk about how feminism has destroyed this country. And
that's not.
We need to put women back in the house, sort of thing. So I think if you just phrase it as we need to make housing more affordable, you don't even have to focus on the dual income sort of thing. But
but I think there's something to explaining to the American people that your family's working twice as hard because it is. And I'm working on it. I'm not saying it's good. So I just working out loud.
You're saying as a metric. So the fact that we're working more as a family unit, that's a way to show how really our sort of style of living and the cost of living has gone up. And one way to sort of interpret that is through the, household working factor.
Yeah. Because look, I mean, one of those things, look, I couldn't be further away from Christian nationalism at all in any of that. I have zero interest in their leave it to Beaver, send women back to the kitchen bullshit. The one thing I will say is they have a critique that is somewhat accurate, which is there is a lot of evidence that when a parent stays home, that kids do better in that environment. Now, I don't think that parent has to be a woman. I think we can create the conditions for somebody to be able to stay home and raise the kids. I have no problem. I would be fine to stay home and raise my son. My son's an absolute blast. I think that would be really fun if I could do that. But again, you have to work. Both of them have to work. And that's the problem. And it's not for a higher quality of life. It's not so that they can take more vacations. It's not so that they can have a bigger house or a nicer car. It's to maintain a quality of life, or very likely have a less quality of life than their parents. I would argue that my brother and my sister-in-law have a lower quality of life right now. It's not bad, but I'm not complaining about their quality of life. It's worse than my parents. And my dad worked a government job in the FBI for 34 years and supported 3 kids in a very nice house in Omaha, Nebraska. And I'm watching my brother and my sister-in-law struggle with 1 kid. And I think that bothers me.
There's a huge challenge to what you're prescribing here. I think you're correct. I think in order for the Democratic Party to establish that they're worth voting for, they do need to have really bold policy agendas that line up with things like LBJ's war on poverty or the FDR New Deal era style policies. But we live in an era where bipartisanship is just much less common. Used to be way more common that the parties work together and would oftentimes bipartisanly pass the president's agenda, whether they were a Democrat or a Republican. Those days are fucking gone largely. And then also we have this filibuster, and neither party seems to be positioned to very easily get to 60 votes again anytime soon. I mean, never say never, especially with how bad things are going for the Trump administration. I don't think it's off the table for 2028. But I mean, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the filibuster. I mean, I feel like it's kind of politically necessary for Democrats to get rid of the filibuster, because I don't know how they deliver this agenda that you're talking about without doing that.
Yeah, I think this is what the next Democratic president has to be prepared to do. I think you're going to have to go to the Republicans in 2029 and you're going to say, listen, you have 2 choices right now. You can either work with us to solve these issues, and we will work with you in good faith for a period of time, put a period of time on it so that they cannot delay you forever, as they are wont to do. Or I'm going to nuke the filibuster, and you are going to feel the pain of that for generations. And I think that's the way it needs to be. And I don't want to nuke the filibuster, but I will nuke the filibuster if they stand in the way of progress. Because if we don't do it, we end up in a situation where if you ask the average voter right now, what do they think about the Democratic Party? They think 2 things about them. They think they're fighting for everybody other than you. They don't think they're fighting for me. They think they fight for other people. And then they'll say they can't deliver on any of the promises that they make. So if we come up with a great brand new deal for 2028, which is, I think, what we should do. We should have the energy and enthusiasm and the momentum that Barack Obama had in 2008 to move this country forward. People are just as ready for change right now, if not more ready for change than they were when George W. Bush was finishing his 2nd term. I think people are sick of this moment in time in our politics. So if we can turn the page on that, but if Republicans stand in the way of allowing us to do those things, we're going to have to take some real risks. The one more thing I'll add here, though, and I spoke at the Democratic Lieutenant Governors Association, and one of the lieutenant governors asked me the same question. And I was like, look, nuking the filibuster, much like packing the Supreme Court, expanding the Supreme Court, that's step 1 of a 5,000 step plan. Okay. You cannot just nuke the filibuster and then raise the minimum wage and be like, we're good. You can't do that. You've got to nuke the filibuster, and then we're going to make DC a state. Then we're going to make Puerto Rico a state. Then we're going to make Guam a state. Then we're going to merge the Dakotas. Then we're going to overturn Citizens United. Then we're going to on and on and on and on. I need to know the 500 things that you have planned after that. And when Republicans and Fox News and the Wall Street Journal editorial op-ed section are losing their mind, you tell them to go fuck themselves. Okay. And I think people will reward us on the strength of that more than anything.
Yeah.
That's music to my ears. Go
ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. So, Bill.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like you're confident that would be so positive to the American people that Republicans wouldn't win another election, because it sounds like you're not scared of the this pendulum swing pushback.
No, I'm terrified. I'm terrified that they would win another election. I'm terrified that they would win another election. But that's the scary thing, is at a certain point, you're going to have to take a risk. And to be honest with you, Republicans right now are talking about nuking the filibuster to do a bunch of the stuff that they want to do, like the SAVE Act. one side will eventually break this. Like, this is not a tenable situation where we're blocking everything that they want to do and they're blocking everything that we want to do. One side's going to do it. And I have watched the Republican Party break every norm imaginable in my lifetime. And this is the one that they haven't yet because they don't have the votes in the Senate. But at a certain point, somebody's going to do it. And I think, again, if we actually make a meaningful difference in people's lives, if they feel it, if we do an actual good job here and people are like, oh man, things are better, we'll get rewarded for that by the voters. And I'm okay with that. I think at some point we're going to have to take the risk.
This is why I want to see the Republicans pass the Save America Act, because they'll nuke the filibuster. I don't think we have the votes to get rid of it, even in 2029. I mean, we have people like Chris Coons, Angus King. I'm not sure we'd have enough votes to get rid of the filibuster.
They don't even have they don't even have the votes to. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, good.
Well, I was just going to say, they don't even have the votes to pass the SAVE Act, even if they got rid of the filibuster. I thought you were going a different way with it, IRI. So ignore my interruption.
Well, I'm just curious, Mike, do you think we'd have the votes in 2029? I don't know what the Senate map looks like, the third that's up for re-election in 2028, but best case scenario, this time we get 51, and then, I don't know, maybe we can increase that a couple more votes. So I worry that we wouldn't even have the votes to make that threat. I'm with you on it. I'm 100% there with you.
I mean, I think it just depends on the makeup of the Senate, but you're right. Like, whether or not we have the votes matters a great deal. And I don't know. Does that caucus include John Fetterman, who's basically at this point a Republican when it counts?
Probably not. Probably
I
not.
don't know. So
he's out.
No,
He's definitely
I do
out.
want to say though, like, to me, you need unilateralism. I would do this like grand bargain deal for all of 1 week, Mike, and I would just basically say it just to show, like, have said that we tried to do it. But in general, I think that it's a fool's effort to rely on good faith negotiation from the Republican Party, and we just need to win enough seats to be able to overturn the filibuster to get our Project 2029 in place. And everything you said, I felt like you were channeling Josiah, our mutual friend from Pondering Politics there when it comes to court reform, the democracy reform that we need in Puerto Rico, et cetera. And it just is, and has been shown over and over from the Obama era to the Biden era, that these people don't care about bipartisanship. It's all a game. And so I'm much more in favor of unilateralism, and we just need to find the votes to overturn the filibuster, to get rid of it, whether or not they pass the Save America Act. Anything less, and we won't be able to deliver the fast change that you say, and I agree, is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, well, one, they're not going to pass the SAVE Act because they don't want to pass the SAVE Act. It's actually going to be bad for them. I don't think they, like, again, when they meddled with gerrymandering, they fully did not understand like how that was going to be bad for them. And now Democrats are probably going to pick up at minimum 2 seats, but more in Texas if the wave that we think might be coming is coming. So again, with the SAVE Act, like, not passing it is actually in their best interest. It only exists for them to be able to like go on TV and be like voter ID and racism and, you know, all that stupid shit that they want to do. It's just a political, I don't forget the term, but like, you guys know what I mean. But like, the other thing here too is like on unilateralism, you go back in history for a minute, like how many Republicans actually supported LBJ's agenda? Virtually none. How many Republicans actually supported the New Deal? Basically none. Like, so if you go through the moments in time throughout American history where there was tremendous movement forward, it was never bipartisan. Okay, we've had moments where we've had, you know, great legislation that's been passed by both political parties, and that's fine. We've also had moments where both political parties come together and pass terrible legislation, the Patriot Act.
Yep.
And, you know, I just think that there's this like romanticized DC version of partisanship. Like, you know, have you guys seen the movie Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yes.
Yeah, you know why I love this movie? Because it's not a romantic version of Abe Lincoln. Abe Lincoln is literally scratching and clawing and bribing his way towards passing an amendment that will abolish slavery for all time. Like, that's what he's doing. It's one of the shadiest things that a president's probably ever done before for good.
Yeah,
and like
the
at a certain
opposite
point
of what you mentioned earlier, like the West Wing, where you just sit down in the room and you give a really convincing speech, and the Republicans are like, well, gosh, I mean, you logic my way into this. I have to vote with you, which just is not how it works ever.
No. Have you seen the episode of The West Wing where they like get 2 Supreme Court justices to retire and then they
that is insane.
The cap off of the show is that Jimmy Schmitz wins, and oh, is this a spoiler? I'm sorry. This is like 20 years old. Hutch.
I love that Hutch just took off his mic. He's like,
no, don't spoil,
don't spoil the West Wing
the
for
cap
me.
off of the show is like Jimmy Schmitz hires, and he gets the Republican to be his VP, I think, or some stupid
Just tell me
shit.
when you're done.
We're done.
Just tell
We're
me.
done.
I got you muted.
It's Secretary of State.
done.
We're good.
Or yeah, it's like, oh, cool.
And then he dies.
So funny.
Like,
Okay, all right. I'm watching it I'm literally watching it for the first time. So
It's a good show. It's a good show.
The only thing I'll tell you about that, I hate watch The West Wing. That's how I watch it. So when I watch it, I'm like, fuck these guys.
I'm an Aaron Sorkin hater.
Yeah.
But
Here's a
Wait.
go
You're
for
an Aaron
it, sorry.
Sorkin hater. What, you don't like a few good men and the American president? Like those
Social network.
Social network's good. The newsroom, you can hate watch the newsroom.
Oh,
guys.
I hate the newsroom.
Oh,
I
but
hate
you-
it.
see,
Go watch
I
the scene
hate
where
it
they
too.
find out Osama died. It's the funniest thing in the world.
Well, guys, but though in real life, though, The Rock is the one who announced that Osama bin Laden died.
Yes.
I feel like that's, if you were to go back in time, that's the moment when we should have been like, all right, everything's fucked up. Like,
Right.
people want to blame it on the Cubs winning the World Series in 2016. I'm like, that was it, right?
Guy, go ahead. I think you were trying to-
I want to follow up. It said, I think I heard you say a moment that it pains you to say we should get rid of the filibuster. So do you, like, in theory, think it'd be wonderful we could have it, but we're way beyond that? Or what was your meaning behind that? If I heard you correctly.
I mean, what's stopping the Republicans from passing a national abortion ban right now? It's the filibuster, right? So like, it's a valuable tool. I understand it when you're in the minority, and like, I hate to bring up Kirsten Sinema for a second, but when she voted to save the filibuster a few years back, people were mad, but she described this exact scenario where Democrats are in the minority right now and sort of lost in the woods. She's not wrong about that. I don't necessarily disagree with her. I disagree with her on a great many things, but like, she's not wrong. So like, it's a painful decision. And I feel like, again, a lot of people online advocate for it, just thinking that it'll all be like, sunshine and rainbows afterwards. It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. That is a brutal thing to do that reshapes American democracy. And you have to be prepared for the consequences of that. And the consequences could be dire if you do not deliver for the American people. And the Democrats have not been good at delivering for the American people in quite some time.
I think people focus too much on like Congress as such and policy as such. I do want to move on to current affairs, if that's where you're going. But the one last thing I want to say is I think that the reason, and this might seem counterintuitive, that we need to get rid of the filibuster, in addition to all the policy and congressional reasons, is to control the presidency, because that's the branch that matters now. And the president, by far, is the most powerful branch. And getting rid of the filibuster will put Democrats in the best position to maintain the presidency. You've seen what Trump has been able to do with illegal wars, with wholesale changes to agency structure, like basically screwing over our bureaucratic state for decades. I think it's decades. So yeah, I think the filibuster is important in the sense of getting the policy we want, but also maintaining the political vitality that we need to take hold and keep the most powerful branch for the next 10, 20 years, and that's the presidency.
Well, I agree with you that the presidency is that important now, both because of the last year where like a series of new precedents have been set. And by the way, I'll remind any Republicans that are watching, every precedent that's been set by your president can be used by my next president to go off and do that. I mean, Donald Trump is my president, let me be clear, but like, even though I dislike the guy, but I do think like—
I don't think so. I think he's a fake president. I don't think he's legitimate. I don't think that he's constitutionally in office. One of the things that I propose the Democrats should do is enforce Section 3 and enforce it retroactively, as was intended by the civil rights era, and to declare him having never held office. So I don't actually think that he's the president right now. I think he's illegally occupying the office and duties. But sorry, that's just
no. That's I would do an entirely separate podcast. I want to hear everything about that like after.
Yeah,
this.
for sure.
I don't know that I can. I'm still on the like. My wife asked me the other day. She was like, "Do you know who Palm Beach Pete is? This is the guy that looks like Jeffrey Epstein." And I was like, "Yeah." And I can't. And I was like, "I can't go down this rabbit hole because I currently think he's in Israel playing video games right now, and like my grasp of reality is so tenuous relative to the Epstein files. Just no more. I gotta like stay here. Otherwise, it's gonna get weird in my life."
No worries. Go on. Sorry, I didn't remember.
No, it's okay. I think the other thing is like we had talked about economic populism being a big plank that Democrats have to run on. I think anti-corruption has to be the other plank that Democrats run on. Like we should be like the radical Republicans. We should be like Teddy Roosevelt and trust busting. We should be breaking up these monopolies, but we should also be limiting the power of the executive branch. Like we should get rid of the filibuster and then we should nuke the executive branch's power. Like I believe that so firmly in my life. I think we should also get rid of insider trading in Congress and regulate these betting markets. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that we need to do, but we should absolutely be reigning in executive power. And this is the time in America to have that conversation right now, because we have an absolute lunatic who's literally like making threats about nuking other countries right now. I would argue he made a not so veiled threat today to doing so. So I think people are ready for that conversation. So.
One of our podcast regulars, Laksha Jain, he's a pollster. You're probably familiar with him.
I've had Laksha on my show.
Yeah, he's great. But he recommended tying anti-war to like sort of economic populism. But that's another thing. I mean, it kind of segues into what we should talk about next here, which is, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. Should we begin with Trump's fucking insane address that he gave to the nation the other day? Should we talk about him saying,
that's actually, you mean the one
Wednesday on Easter? Yeah, go ahead.
On your point, right? Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. Do you mean Wednesday night speech?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most boring speech I've ever seen a president give.
That was crazy.
It was
that's
crazy.
Yeah,
that's what was crazy about it. Is I was like, this is just a dude reading a speech. I'm actually scared.
Well, and Hutch, you say tying these two things together, like we don't even really need to. He already did it for us. He's up there saying we can't afford these things.
Yeah, exactly.
And anyway, give me money for war. It's like, all right, cool. There's the campaign ad. Just slap approved by Kamala Harris at the end of that.
I'm gonna get shit for saying this, but Schumer and Carville, nobody's been more vindicated than those two in the last year. But holy shit, because
I love James Carville.
Literally, I mean, like he is. I don't know. I feel like he's speedrunning. He's speedrunning his way to like 25% approval here. By saying stuff like that and doing this, conducting this war. But yeah, what are you guys' thoughts?
People love to shit on James Carville. Go back in time. That guy's right about almost everything. Like he's time traveling backwards. That's why he acts the way that he does, I think. Sorry,
and it's the economy stupid with respect to the war. Yeah, like the Iran war is affecting everything else that Americans, I think, care about in terms of sort of where we ought to put our fiscal obligations. Obviously, the cost of living. Now, if we're going to have a more sort of a focused presence in Iran with boots on the ground, it could literally cost the blood of our fellow Americans. And so I think it's a really important issue for people to go on. And the administration just has no coherence to it. Every 2 seconds, Trump is contradicting himself. He said, we don't need the strait. And the other day he just tweets, open the fucking strait, praise be to Allah.
The war is over.
It's an insane situation.
How is Iran not coming out the better side of this thing? Like I listened to
They're
this
winning.
podcast.
They're winning. Iran is winning.
They've discovered that if they can just survive, like the regime change attempts and exert that control over the Strait of Hormuz, and make these kind of threats that they're making to their neighboring countries, then they can do so much damage to the world economy, and they've demonstrated that now, like very publicly. And what are you going to do about that? Like, how the fuck can America come out the better side of this thing?
I mean, look, Trump has two really shitty options. Let's set aside the fact that he never should have started this war for a second. He can either do one of two things. He can either declare victory in some benign way and then leave. And then what'll happen is Iran continues to control the Strait of Hormuz. China and Russia go help Iran rebuild. And we're basically in the same place we were before, except we look like idiots.
And
are even weaker.
Iran said they'll never open it to the capacity to Israel and America, even if the war ends. I mean, they're not really agreeable at this point, given what we've done to them. So I'm not quite sure that it would go back to normal. It wouldn't just be a morality and an optics. It would also be like, hey, oil might not go back.
They're actually more powerful. They're
I mean,
actually more powerful. They're more radical.
I mean, money talks. So I think like at the end of the day, like probably with a little bit of time, they will like just open that back up for the sake of like making that money. But I could be wrong about that. Like, who knows? Like people act irrationally in international conflicts. But then the other side of that is you got to go the whole way. You got to take Clark Island. You got to take the Strait of Hormuz. And you know what that takes? American ground troops on the ground. And I do think that's where he's going. Like, I think that's what's going to happen here.
100%.
They're going to put boots on the ground and they're going to claim it's about uranium. But they're really going to be trying to get the Strait of Hormuz because that's what they actually need. And now suddenly we're occupying the Strait of Hormuz for how long? I don't know. And at the same time, we're trying to get the Panama Canal back. We're trying to take Greenland. We want to annex Canada. Cuba is a thing that's out there. Like,
you want to talk about 25% approval. I mean, once this like boots on the ground started being actually in the discussion, I'm in the Bay Area and I saw something I've never seen in my life, which was a car with 6 different military flags on it, a big sign that said "Pray for the troops," and a woman like with like the most decked out military gear ever. And I'm like, this is not California. This is not San Francisco Bay Area. Like this is gonna tank if you start seeing Americans die, because it already seems like there might have been a cover up, and it might be more than the few dozen that are reporting. It's hundreds, right?
100%.
If you start seeing people die in the thousands like Iraq, like he's toast, way worse than it's already been. So
well,
there's no stomach for this, none.
I'm just an armchair general, but I don't see any way for the military to secure the Strait of Hormuz and to escort 150 ships through. I mean, it just takes one sea drone or some guy firing a missile that hits a ship within seconds, and nobody's going to do that for a week. So is there even a military solution to opening it?
I mean,
you need regime change.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, take it. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think you need regime change. If you listen to any of the, I think Robert Pape has done a really good job explaining that. You know, I don't always agree with Mearsheimer, but I think that some of these people's analyses, it's hard to find any place to disagree with, given the size of Iran's coastline and given what they've been able to achieve so far, that absent regime change within Iran, this power has been obtained by Iran. It's just a question of power. They have obtained it, and the only way to displace it effectively is to displace the regime, and there's no stomach for it, as Mike suggested.
No, and I think the more that the further Donald Trump gets deeper into this rabbit hole, the more his approval rating is going to go down. And it's to Hutch's point earlier about tying the anti-war stuff to the economy. Like I actually take one full step back on that for a second. And like So when I started to develop my own, just because as a content creator or a TV pundit, whatever you want to call me, like I was, okay, what do I actually talk about? How do I talk about it? It became like a thing that I had to do. And I started going, okay, everything that I talk about is either about the economy, it's about security, or it's about corruption, right? And so I would only talk about if it's in those three buckets. And if they ask me like, because I go on like Newsmax a lot and they'll be like, Gavin Newsom's wife said this thing about kids reading books. And I'll be like, okay, well, how do I get this back to one of my 3 areas I actually want to talk about? So I had to know what I stood for a second. I've added a layer on top of that, which is, and I just call it Epstein class. So like everything funnels through Epstein class now, because I think that's like the window into the way that the world works and the reason that 80% of Americans are getting absolutely fucked on any given day in this economy with this government. And so I come in with that. So I'm looking for somebody that, like John Ossoff. John Ossoff has a very clear critique of the system and why it is not working. Just like Donald Trump had in 2016. Donald Trump had a clear critique of why the system wasn't working. It sounded crazy to the rest of us, but to people who were getting screwed, it was giving a voice to something that they didn't understand. I think that Ossoff can do that. And I think other Democrats can do it too. I'm not just like falling in line with Ossoff, but I think you have to have that. And then I think the war now becomes a part of that. So when I'm doing TV hits now, I just did one on Newsmax today and I made this point today. It's like, look, we've got a class of people who are benefiting no matter what. There's all this market manipulation with Iran. Who's benefiting from that? It's the Epstein class. Who are the people who are not sending their kids over to war right now? It's the Epstein class. Who are the people who are abusing little kids, getting away with it while getting tax cuts in the Republican budget? It's the Epstein class. Now you have something you can blame people on. And it isn't just in the zeitgeist of like billionaires and millionaires. And it's like a little bit beyond class. It's actually about like values and what you care about and who you care about and community. And I think you can get people behind something like that because of what this class of people have done. And then I would tie the war into that. I would tie the economy and the job market into that. I would tie security and privacy into that, because privacy is a huge problem right now with AI that nobody's talking about right now. AI is going to be the big boogeyman of 28, in my opinion, because it's killing the job market, but it's also just stealing your data. And we don't talk about that enough on the left because we have too many tech guys on our side that are like pumping money into our campaigns. So I think we got to solve.
I have a question on that point, actually, because you see like, there's videos, interviews on the street, everyone leading up to 2024. Why are you voting for Trump? And like half the time, the reason is no new wars. And this has clearly not been borne out at all. That was a complete sham. Do you think the next Republican candidate, let's say it's not Trump trying to run for a third term, it's Vance or Rubio, can they sufficiently distance themselves and say, oh, well, we're going to be no new wars? Are they going to be able to sell that to people with the goldfish memory in 3 years from now?
I have a tough time believing that the viceroy of Venezuela is going to be able to convince people that we're not doing new wars. And I really don't. I don't think JD Vance can get elected president. I don't think he can win the primary. Now, I want to be clear. I could be totally wrong about that, but I think people just fucking hate that guy everywhere you go. And I've seen focus groups of it. Like there is like an aversion to him in the way that like there was like that skeevy guy in your like, college class that like none of the girls were interested in because there was just something wrong about him. It's like that. It's some kind of repellent that people have. Even my dad is a 3-time Trump voter. And I bet if push comes to shove in a general election, he'll probably vote for JD Vance in the end, but he hates that guy, man. And I think there are more Americans who feel that way. And like, there's just a million examples of JD Vance repelling people, but like I'm a practicing Catholic and he wrote a book about his conversion to Catholicism and then put a Methodist church on the front. And I'm mad about that. And I don't even care about JD Vance.
Hey, his own mom tried to sell him for drugs. So yeah, he's not exactly the most popular.
Too bad she didn't.
He's throwing his own wife under the bus. And he really was in like the aftermath of the Iran war as selling himself as a kind of populist anti-war part of the quote unquote coalition. Yeah. He was totally silent for like weeks, making an appearance here or there.
He's still pretty
even
silent.
now.
Like, where is he?
Yeah.
The most online vice president in the country has nothing to say in defense of his running mate on the war in Iran. Seems pretty significant.
It's wild. And it's also an issue, I think, with the lane that he's carving out for himself. He can't be fully on board with this war because A, it's unpopular, and B, it's counter to his whole image. But he also can't be too far from Trump because that's his only claim to power. I almost think that the best thing that could happen to JD Vance is for people to invoke like the 25th Amendment or for him to be impeached or something, or otherwise leave office.
I honestly think he won't run. I think he won't run.
I think Trump kind of screwed him by making him the corruption czar, and I think corruption's going to be a huge
what an awful job.
Oh my God. I saw that and was like, I'm drinking from the keg of glory today. Thank you for this, God.
Because when the Dems take the House, they're going to expose, I imagine, a bunch of corruption. We haven't even seen the beginning of it. Trump's going to try to steal every dollar he can before he leaves this earth and the White House. So, and JD Vance is going to be the corruption czar. Couldn't get better.
The worst job they could have ever given him. It's hilarious. Yes. And I believe it's a punishment for something. I don't know if it's not being sufficiently pro-war enough or what, but Trump was like, fuck that guy. Like, it's great.
I think it speaks to what you were talking about before about how there were a lot of people that just fucking hated Donald Trump but voted for him probably because they wanted their paychecks to go further. The macroeconomic conditions were just, it is what it is. But
well, look at sorry to interrupt, but like, look at the favorables. Like Kamala Harris had higher favorables than Donald Trump did. Like, and typically that's the correlation. Like I would have said a couple of days before the election that I thought Kamala would eke it out with undecided voters because more people liked her amongst undecided voters. And they didn't. And they didn't because of Biden. Like you own all the sins of your predecessor, right? Like Biden gets elected because people were nostalgic for Obama. That's what that was. And now it's the reverse happens to Kamala, which is really unfair. That's going to happen to JD Vance too. And so I don't know. I think whoever they nominate on the Republican Party side, they will probably have 1 or 2 degrees separated from this administration while still also being able to claim some sort of MAGA validator. And that's why, like, I don't write off Tucker Carlson. I think Tucker Carlson's a very serious candidate for the Republican nomination.
I don't think he wants to run. I mean, why would you give up his cushy job? He gets paid millions of dollars to sit in a chair just talking shit about politicians. Like,
have you seen how much the president of the United States has made in the last year?
Well, that's
off of
fair.
graft
That's
and
fair.
And I will also say, like, I hate Tucker Carlson, but I do think I do a fair amount of like listening to these people to try to understand them a little bit better and to kind of like learn like, okay, how are they building their audiences, et cetera. Like there's some shit that Tucker Carlson actually believes in that's consistent and you hear about it. And if you listen to him talk about like credit card companies and the economy, he sounds like Elizabeth Warren. So I think there's some core of that. Doesn't, get rid of the anti-Semitism and the racism and the ridiculous conspiracy theories because that's all real.
But then he also talks about demons scratching him in the night while he's sleeping.
Oh, the vice president of the United States said that UFOs were demons like 4 days ago. We all just went, "Oh, JD."
True.
Like,
and I mean, are we not going to talk about all his like secret funding from Qatar or maybe even Russia and how
alleged?
He who hasn't accidentally taken a check from the Qatari government, can cast the first stone. Right?
I was going to say, I guess given that our president's done it, it's not disqualifying. But I would hope that people are starting to become a little more aware and would not vote for this in the primary. But
I mean, but it also depends on who the Democrats run too. I mean, I think I think we lost because of the way we conducted ourselves in 2024, and like we gave the presidential election to Trump, in my opinion.
What do you think about somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene?
I hate Marjorie Taylor Greene with a fiery, burning passion.
Do you think she could be vindicated 2 years from now and the nation turns on Trump and she was the leader and the voice and she's still MAGA?
She's just not intelligent or charismatic enough to win a primary.
Well, she's on The View. She's one of these rare Republicans that can kind of go.
She's lazy.
I definitely think she's going to run, but I don't know that she has the juice to win. But like, who knows anymore? Like, who knows what the American people are going to want at the moment? I mean, the conditions in society and culture and the economy that allow for Donald Trump to get elected, I think allow for a lot of people to get elected. And so, like, if I fast forwarded 4 years right now, when I was at Stephen A. Smith's inauguration, I'd be like, I'd go, yeah, like whatever, okay, great. What does this mean? Which party did you run in?
He picks bills based on he puts them on screen. He's like, now I like this bill. I like the way this one's looking. But over here we have this. This is good for the economy.
I think it's a lot like.
Wait, can we talk about Democrats for a second?
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was gonna say there's a scene in the Simpsons movie where Arnold Schwarzenegger character is the president of the United States, Rainer Wolfcastle, and the EPA director walks in and goes, "Sir, I have 5 unspeakable plans. Which one would you like to do today?" And he goes, "This one." He's like, "Not gonna read it." He's like, "I was elected to lead, not to read."
No, sorry. I think there's a delay. I'm not trying to interrupt you guys. Just a heads up. But yeah, let's talk about Democrats real quick because you spoke about John Ossoff there and about trying to get a narrative and trying to get an identity. And I think right now there are a lot of discussions that are happening, certainly online, about what makes a Democrat, what lines, if any, should be drawn for the next Democratic candidate in terms of policy or in terms of personality even. For me, oftentimes personality and your willingness to do corruption is more important than policy. Right. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. And one area where I've tried to be very firm is this war. If this war isn't just the most beautiful and rich opportunity to take advantage of political capital and to really take the most important issues to Americans by the balls, I don't know what is. And so for you, what makes a Democrat a Democrat? What do you think about these conversations about platforming, et cetera, and coalition building? And yeah, respond to that.
Yeah, well, there's like 15 questions in that. So how much longer?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my bad.
No, you're okay.
Yeah.
How much time do you have, Mike? Just to get a.
I mean, I'm supposed to go to a birthday party in 5 minutes, but I'm already going to be late. So let's say 6:15.
Okay.
So 6:15 Central. Because if you guys are on the West Coast, I don't want to give you an accidental 2 hours. So I don't actually know where people are based right now. So there's a couple of things that I would say here is like I get asked all the time why I'm a Democrat, and I always just give this answer, which is very simple. And I realize that some people won't like it, but I always say there's two political parties in America, and only one of them gives a shit whether or not you have a good paying job and can retire with dignity. That's the Democratic Party. That's all that I need from you. And so, like, to me, I am comfortable right now with a Democratic Party that ranges from, you know, Zoran Mondani to Joe Walsh. Okay. And I do a show every Friday with Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh and I probably don't agree policy-wise on much, but we both fucking hate Donald Trump and are sick of this moment in time. So, like, I'm okay with Joe Walsh being a member of the Democratic Party. And I don't care that some people don't like that. I think there's a lot of people who want to define what it means to be a Democrat and then make it about, you know, these specific things you have to say, these words you have to say in that exact order. Otherwise, you're not a real Democrat. You're just a fake Democrat, and it's all over the place. And I think you get a lot of it comes from the third way, and it's really ridiculous. Then you get a lot of it that comes from the far left, and like, I don't really want to talk about it because we'll be here all day. But the Hassan Piker, you know, news 2 weeks that we've been debating that, it's just been like, I'm done with it. I don't want to talk about it.
It's been months over here.
Has it been months over here? By the way, if you listen to the way that Hassan Piker's pro people, the people who are behind him talk, you would think he had 50 million subscribers on the internet. He's got 3 million. Okay. When people tune into a Twitch stream, it's like 30, 40,000. It's not unimpressive. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than us, but like, it's not Joe Rogan, guys. And I think people need to calm down. I also think, like, go on people's shows, have a conversation with folks. It's okay to disagree. I don't think that's like an unreasonable.
I just think that politicians need to be clear-eyed about it. Like, I don't think that you should blacklist Hassan Piker. I don't think that works. Right. I think someone with a platform that big, you just end up doing a Streisand effect and making them look more sympathetic if you're doing what Third Way doing, which is like trying to mandate that politicians like never speak to them. But when you go into his platform, you need to understand that, you know, you asked, like Pisco asked, what makes a Democrat a Democrat? Well, at minimum, I think you should want the Democratic Party to win. Like, and I don't mean just like really specific.
I agree with you on 100%.
Blue districts. Yeah. It needs to be like a holistic approach. Like, you need to maximize wins and not actively try to sabotage people who don't pass your purity test. And that's just not who Hassan Piker is. But you can go into that platform, just be like, I think they need to do a better job of like, Slotkin is a really good example. Like, I don't think her people prepared her well for that Breaking Points interview that she went into. And I think it's up to the staffers to, and Cory Booker went on Pod Save America just yesterday or today and was like, I have no idea who he is. My staffer had to show me like a sizzle reel of like 5 of his clips or something like that. But
he was lying, right? I mean, that's a lie. That feels. How does he not know that?
You don't think it's plausible that Cory?
Can I make a point about how Cory Booker might? Yeah. I mean, and I work for Cory, so to be clear, I love Cory, and I don't think he would lie about something like that. But here's what I would say. There was a poll not that long ago that was asking people about Americans that they admire. This came out like a couple weeks ago, and one of them was like they asked people about iShowSpeed. And only 20% of Americans even had an opinion on iShowSpeed. iShowSpeed is easily one of the biggest content creators on the planet. He's about to headline WrestleMania in a couple weeks. So like, he's a massive creator. And I think you'd be surprised at the number of people who either know somebody or you have no idea.
Yeah, but it's Cory Booker, and he sort of weighed in, I think, on the New York mayoral race too. I mean, maybe it's true. It is possible that it's true there, but I do think that some of these politicians, maybe not Cory, maybe you have some more inside knowledge, are more online than they appear, or at least they claim to be. And it reminded me a little bit about Mike Johnson.
You'd be shocked how
really?
not online some of these people are. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mike, then
including Cory.
Who do we keep out then? Who are we gatekeeping out of the Democratic? Which you described a pretty wide tent. Joe Walsh to Mamdani. Who are you like? Absolutely not. Get this person out.
I mean, I definitely agree with the sentiment of like anybody that doesn't want the Democratic Party to succeed. So like Hassan Piker has said, I don't care if Democrats win.
I'm saying name names, make enemies, right?
That's okay. I mean, Hassan, I'm happy to do your show and argue with you about why I think you're wrong. But like, you know, if you're saying I'm not going to vote for Gavin Newsom, like you're going to vote for third party, like Gavin Newsom would be better than whoever the Republicans put up. I don't like Gavin Newsom. I'm pretty on the record about that. Like, I don't think he should be our nominee, but like there's that. So like, I would put them there. I think anybody that wants to, you know, strip people of their dignity so that like billionaires can have more money is like, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't have specific names for you right there, but like, you know, I'm not interested in like, okay, Elon Musk, like I got into a fight with Ro Khanna a couple months ago because he was like, maybe we can bring Elon Musk back into the tent. And I was like, no, Elon Musk has crossed through a Rubicon that I no longer trust him. And frankly, I think he should be prosecuted for stealing American people's data. And so I'm not going to accept that. Like if you're Nick Fuentes says he's voting Democrat in 2026, are we letting neo-Nazis in the party? Like the answer to that is no. Now, Can there be two different things? Can there be an anti-Trump coalition that builds to stop this guy right now? And can that include people that I really dislike? Probably, right? Like Nick Fuentes is not a good human being, but if he's going to oppose the war in Iran and there's usefulness to that, I will take that usefulness. But when we're talking about who sets the agenda inside the Democratic Party, who gets listened to, who gets interviews, I don't want Nick Fuentes in that tent, okay? I really don't. Unless Fuentes, and he's a young guy, I think he's only like 26, like looks in the mirror and goes, holy shit, I've been wrong my whole life. Let me go figure that out. Like, I don't think he's going to.
That's
but
not
like,
happening.
Good luck.
people do change, okay? Robert Byrd was a white dragon in the Ku Klux Klan, and he voted for Barack Obama. So people do change. I would try to leave myself open to that. So
I think the challenging thing with Hassan is that he is this full-time streamer. He's been doing it for 8-9 years now, and he streams a lot. It's like 8-10 hour streams for 7 days a week, and so there's just an ocean of quotes from him. And I think that there are a lot of bad attacks. Like some of the attacks that I've seen from Third Way have been like very dishonest or disingenuous or completely lacking in context. But in order to understand the complexity there, you have to be really online. You have to like know the deep Hassan lore, and that is like not an easy thing to do if you're a staffer or a politician who has to spend hours a day doing other things. And so that's tricky.
I think the only thing about it is like, and I agree with you, some of the attacks that have come at Hassan have been like, that's it, like really? And then there's been a couple others though where I've been like, holy shit. Like the one where he was mimicking Russia's talking points on Crimea and talking about Crimea being part of Russia. Yeah. Absolutely want nothing to do with that. Get away from me. The way he's been parroting like Chinese talking points is very like suspicious to me. And I think like he's got to answer some questions about that.
He's already answered those questions though. He is very unambiguously
I haven't seen it.
Pro-China, pro-authoritarian.
Okay, well then I have a problem with that. Like I am not a pro-China Democrat. Like so like if I don't think the world, like right now China is ascendant on the world stage, and I do not think that is good for the American people, period. And so I'm happy to get into a fight with Hassan about that. But the other thing is like he said something like, I don't give a fuck what black voters care about. Like that's the other thing. I was like, I don't want somebody who's going to talk like that inside the Democratic Party. I just don't want that.
I think,
but also he's not a Democrat, by the way. He's not a Democrat. Okay,
he's not. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, he's not a Democrat, and I think it's bullshit that given everything we knew in 2024, that there could still be people on the fence or being kind of equivocal or unsure about who they were going to endorse or vote for, even if he ended up doing so. And obviously, everything said about Crimea. And the simpness to Russia and China, that's bullshit, and I fucking hate it.
Which he doubled down on.
Yeah,
too.
Totally, yeah, and I think that we can have a different array of prescriptions over how to deal with people we disagree with, and I think you've laid out a couple of them, like go on their shows, use their platforms, etc. One thing though that I find completely maddening is Democrats now who continue to fight or at least be weak on issues where the Democratic base has shown where their sympathies lie. For example, this war, there are some Democrats who are incredibly strong in terms of their rhetoric on this war. Chris Murphy, etc. The less said, the better. And there are other people who are not as vocal. The same thing with Israel. The Democratic base does not like our current policy and how we treat Israel, given that Israel is one of the countries that has pushed for this war, including, by the way, other Gulf states as well, according to some reporting. I think that there is a point that some Democratic leaders seem to be fighting on dying hills that aren't popular with the American people and aren't even popular with their base. Your reaction?
No, I mean, I think that's right. Now, I will say, like, I think on Israel in particular, we're kind of trapped between two very not tenuous positions, right? It's like all of these people who are just accusing anybody who says anything negative about Israel of being anti-Semitic. But then there are like legitimately anti-Semitic people over here who are saying things that are horrific. And I think that needs to be called out for what it is at a time when like there is a rising bit of hate, not a bit, a lot of hate against the Jewish community inside the United States. And like I have a friend who is married to a rabbi, her partner is a rabbi, and they had to hire like private security at the cost of their community. And like I have a problem with that. Like that should not have to happen in this day and age. And I think not enough Democrats are willing to say that. And I think that's got to be said. However, I'll also add on the like anti-AIPAC front, and I am anti-AIPAC. I called out AIPAC and their meddling in the Illinois primaries, like $21 million. It was absolutely ridiculous. In the Illinois 9
and not even on ads where they're like sort of stating their positions forthright. It's kind of like targeting ads to go after candidates on the fact of what their positions, those candidates' positions are, but not on the grounds of like issues that AIPAC supports.
Yeah, I will say that's what every big lobby does, right? Like that's what crypto does. Yep. That's what oil companies do. Like they all do that. Like that's a common thing that happens, and they find their different shell ways to do it. Like I do kind of, I hate the argument you get from AIPAC. They're like, why are we being singled out for this? And I'm like, well, you're the largest spender in the Illinois primary, for example. So you're not being singled out. You spent more money than anybody else. So now you get the attention of the person who spends more than anybody else. However, like APAC Tracker has been a big talk on X over the last couple of weeks. The way that APAC Tracker is conducting itself is not right, in my opinion. Okay, APAC Tracker is changing the numbers and changing its messaging based on which candidate that it supports. They're attacking J Street, which is a perfectly legitimate actor in this space, and like it drives me nuts. The way that I don't know if you guys followed the Illinois 9 primary, which was between Daniel Biss, who was my client, Kat Abou-Ghazala, who's I actually thought she ran a great campaign. I came away much more impressed with her than I did at the beginning of the campaign. And then Laura Fine, who was the APAC candidate. APAC spent $1.5 million attacking Daniel Biss. They spent $1.1 million attacking Kat, and they spent like $4 million to boost up Laura Fine. Laura Fine finished in third, okay? And Daniel won, and all the APAC Tracker people on X were despondent. They were miserable. Oh my God, APAC has won. APAC didn't win. APAC lost. But they had rallied themselves around Kat, which is fine. You have a right to support whoever you want. We beat APAC in the single most important primary I think that we've had so far this year. We beat APAC and proved a model for how you can do it. And now they're doing that shit again. And there are Democrats that APAC Tracker supports who have taken money from J Street, and that doesn't get counted on their tracker. But it does when they don't like the candidate or when they're
so Van Hollen.
Yeah,
I think Van Hollen has taken J Street money, and Chris Murphy has taken J Street money, and they treat it differently. There's no clarity on their methodology for why one is in the red and one is in the green, and that's bullshit too. Yeah.
Well, and can I ask this question? How else am I supposed to interpret that other than APAC Tracker believes that Israel doesn't have a right to exist, which is a problem. Like Israel exists. It has a right to exist. It has a right to defend itself. It does not have a right to start this war in Iran. It does not have this right to attack and kill 80,000, 100,000 Palestinians, so many people dealing with a starvation crisis. Like they have a right for self-determination as well. But how else am I supposed to determine that? How am I supposed to read what APAC Tracker wants when they're just manipulating stuff like that? And I have a problem with it. And I'm happy to get that on the internet by APAC Tracker. I'll take it. It's fine.
You pointed out a good issue, which is like, yeah, they do donate. They're like the biggest donor in some of these campaigns. But in the same way, like you mentioned the Epstein class and how we can like funnel populist frustrations into, hey, these are the people who are fucking you over. APAC has become like the boogeyman for like, don't get me wrong, I don't like when they do this stuff, but like there are so many lobbying groups that some of which you just mentioned. And because everyone can now just say, oh, I'm not just anti-lobbying, I'm anti-APAC. APAC is controlling everything. This very slowly bleeds over into like, oh, we have a Zionist controlled government. They're like all over. Their hands are tied in everything. They control every single race. And instead of focusing on the fact that this is a multifaceted, complicated problem with lots of different lobbying and interest groups, and I think it's bad because it's oversimplifying the problem and making people think like, well, if we just got rid of APAC, everything would be fine. And that's just not how this works.
That's probably true. But I will say for like Democratic primary voters, like getting them to understand like all the different groups that are spending money when they give them fake names is hard. But like it was effective in the Illinois 9 race to be like, that's APAC. APAC is spending money to attack us. They're creating fake groups. Anything that they say. It's easier than going, it's APAC and it's crypto and it's oil companies and it's this. And also we have to get rid of Citizens United. Like again, 7 seconds, right? 7 seconds a day. The average person thinks about politics, maybe a little bit more if you're voting in a Democratic primary. So I want to keep that stuff simple. And I think people didn't believe the attacks on Daniel Biss. One, because they knew him. He had been their mayor of Evanston for a while. He'd been the state senator for much of the district for a long time. But they also didn't believe them because they knew that they were bullshit ads in a Democratic primary. So I do think there's value to blunting the attacks from APAC and everybody else. And by the way, one thing that crypto does that I think people don't know, crypto doesn't have the political savvy that APAC does. So what crypto often does is they wait to see which races APAC spends money in, and then they will follow APAC's lead, and then later go, look how great and smart we are, and crypto is beloved by the people of Illinois 5. Like, it'll be like that. And so that's something that people don't know.
You brought up how it's going to be really difficult to find like a compromised middle ground for the different positions on Israel. And I think that's correct. And I don't know if you're familiar with a creator named ContraPoints, but she's this video essayist and she does like really great videos. But she came out with an Instagram post that I mention a lot, but like a year and a half ago, where she talked about her problem with like the online left's activism for Palestine in that conflict. And she mentioned the fact that like, it is a big problem. Like they mandated that anti-Zionism be an essential part of their activism. This idea that like anything less than a one-state solution with a full right of return, which number one is just not going to happen. Number two, that would, I think inevitably that would result in the expulsion of all Jews from that region. And how do you find a middle ground there? And it is true that, to Pisco's point, that the voters of the Democratic Party feel overwhelmingly or have moved overwhelmingly away from Israel. They had already been doing that for years before this conflict broke out, but it's really bottomed out in the last few years. But the idea that this is a high salience issue for voters, even for young voters, like for young voters, this doesn't even crack a top 15 issue for them. So I think there's a lot of mischaracterizing that goes on when you hear a lot of mouthpieces from the far left talk about how, the Democratic Party need to meet them because they're where the voters are at. Well, the voters are not super motivated by this conflict, even if they have, strong opinions or opinions that have shifted away from Israel in recent years.
Right. Well, what were all the ads on in all these primaries in Illinois? Not a single one of them mentioned Israel, pro or con. So like that just tells you where the voters are, right? Like they're thinking about ICE, they're thinking about the economy, they're thinking about abuses of power, they're thinking about their day-to-day lives. They're not thinking about Israel. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who care about it. To your point on the left's advocacy for Israel, I think that on so many levels, the far, far, far left of people have just like embarrassed themselves and turned a lot of people away from the ultimate cause here. And either by going so far in a certain direction that it's now completely and totally like anti-Semitic or at least anti the state of Israel, period. And I don't think that's where the vast majority of people are, period. Like if you ask people, even Democratic primary voters, does Israel have a right to exist? I bet that number pulls through the freaking roof. Okay. Maybe not on X, but I bet that pulls through the roof. If you ask people like, do you support Bibi Netanyahu and his right-wing government? That's going to be low. Do you support the war in Iran? It's going to be low. So I just think that there are people who are so disconnected from the actual real world. And there are, again, to the point I made earlier, there's a lot of people on the internet who are very loud in their advocacy of certain things who have never worked or won an election before. And I just make this case all the time. Go ahead.
No, you go first, Mike.
No, I was gonna say I did Waj's show on Substack not that long ago, and he was laying into me about how every Democrat needs to abolish ICE, otherwise Democrats will never win. And I was like, look, you're not going to win on abolish ICE in Maine's 2nd congressional district or Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. And he was like, I think we can. I was like, go prove me wrong. Go prove me wrong. Like if you think if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I think Mike Nellis is an idiot and I think he's wrong about this stuff, go find a candidate or run yourself, get in a race, raise money, go win and prove me wrong. I'd be happy to be proven wrong. I don't give a shit. So that's just my point. Is like you got a lot of people that are not in the arena and then have a lot of opinions about what being in the arena actually looks like.
Yeah, I will note that Maine 2nd District has a lot of Somali immigrants. They've integrated, I think, pretty well in that community. I hear you on that.
Keep Nick Shirley out. Keep Nick Shirley away.
Yeah,
So,
keep Nick Shirley away. Don't give
just
him
don't,
ideas.
Listen, I don't think he can read a map, so don't give him a map or point him in the right direction. All right.
My favorite moment was when they like invited him to the State of the Union, and they often have these like sob stories that come in, and like all the jokes write themselves really with that. On the salience issue of foreign policy, I mean, I agree with Hutch that the Israel-Palestine issue probably doesn't crack top 10, but neither does Crimea, right? Neither does Crimea. Neither does these points that China sympathies, these kinds of esoteric policy
China
issues.
cracks.
One thing
China
that I think
cracks
will
top 10. China cracks
top 10.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it. Okay, maybe it does.
Well, you have
I'll
to
take
frame
more
it
on that.
right, but like if you start talking about China relative to the economy or security, like it pops. So that's about how you talk about it. Yeah. So sorry.
But I think that there is a security question with Israel vis-a-vis this war, though, and I think that there's plenty of reporting that suggests that this war was pushed for months and months and months. And again, I'm not one of these Cenk Uygur people who says it was Israel, our country's controlled by Zog, all that stuff. I think that's bullshit. But I want to see Democrats more forcefully. Like it shouldn't be a question. And the Pod Save guys had a moment about that, where at the initial start of this conflict, there was like a question about whether Democrats were going to fund this war and fund the supplemental. And I think that it's political malfeasance at this point for Democrats, regardless of the salience of the Israel-Palestine issue as such, or how you frame it in terms of the Israel right to exist argument. Regardless of that, they should be against this war, and they should be vocally against this war. And I want to see more of that. I want to see the next Democratic candidate have the right things to say about this war and being opposed to it. And if they don't, I have to think that there's a reason for it. And maybe the reason is that they support the war. Maybe the reason is that they're trying to find like some sort of third position or something. I'm not sure, but it strikes me as suspicious when I don't see every Democrat being as forceful as I think as they should be. That said, I'm conscious of the time. Go for it.
Yeah. Can I jump in with two quick thoughts? And then I do have to run. I think like one, the Democrats that are thinking about voting for the $200 billion supplemental package, like their argument's going to be like, I have to support our troops even if I disagree with the mission. And I've made this point. I wrote a Substack article about it. I sent it out to my email list. I got yelled at for it by a few people, but it was like, if you vote to fund the war, you support the war, period. You don't get out of that. Democratic primary voters are not going to give you any wiggle room on that. If you give Donald Trump another $200 billion, you support what's happening and you own everything that happens in Iran right now. Every military death is yours. Every school bombing by accident is yours in that instance. So I do think a unified Democratic Party is the ideal scenario. Unfortunately, we probably won't get that. I'm assuming there'll be a few people out there that will vote for it, and that's very unfortunate. I want to add one thing, which is just about China, because I think that there's an interesting story I can tell here that might help tie in some of the like Kamala Harris campaign stuff from earlier, which is like, I had this conversation with another Democratic strategist not that long ago who made the following point to me, which is like, you hear people that go, Kamala's campaign was aggressively moderate, and the other people that are like, it was very progressive and like Let's talk about what actual moderate mechanics.
Mike, can you stop? Can you stop real quick? You're cutting out real quick. Can you try checking your cable or something? It looks like it might be loose.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
It's crackly. Very crackly.
It's crackly.
Try again.
And delayed now.
1, 3, 4, 5.
Something just happened.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I think you got hacked by
China got me.
officials is what happened.
China.
It's really crackly and it's super delayed. We can hear you, but you're super delayed and very, very crackly.
1 second.
We can try to predict what you're going to say, and you can just nod.
Well, the timing's good at least. Since
there you go.
Get out of here. Ooh.
Should we pull our chat? Was it Israel or China? I mean, that's like half the comments right now.
You have to pick one, Israel or China.
Can't hear you.
Oh yeah, now you're completely mute.
Completely mute. Yeah, check your mic source. Yeah, you can join with your phone. Yeah, if you can join with your phone just to get your last closing thoughts, that'd be great. Yeah, just click the link that I sent you over Twitter.
It is pretty fucking hilarious, boys, that the mainstream media seems to have caught up with us. We've been talking about the fucking, what should be done with the left discourse for like 9 months or 10 months or
the Hassan Piker Wars. Yes.
And now it's like all over fucking MSNBC.
I'm like in like a trench.
The GOP account, the official GOP account, just tweeted out Hassan's America deserved 9/11 quote.
Guess the thing is, like, as much as I can complain, I'm like, is this guy really important in politics when we talk about policy? It doesn't matter if everyone's going to start talking about him like he is. So,
here we go. All just mute yourself on. Yeah, okay, perfect. Mike.
Oh no.
Oh shit.
There he goes.
Yeah, Hutch. Like the discourse is catching up. Mike, are you there?
Yes. Can I do an obligatory? Right. Just we're going to test this out and be like, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Oh, you're good.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good. Okay, great. You guys can hear me. All right, here's the point I was going to make, which is, Kamala Harris gets pegged for running this sort of moderate campaign. And I think people don't know what actual moderate campaigns look like. And so if you go watch like Tammy Baldwin's closing arguments in Wisconsin, it was these ads that was like, China is coming to take your jobs and I'm going to stop China from taking your jobs away from you. And Kamala Harris didn't do anything even remotely similar to that. Instead, it was like, we have to protect our right to abortion. We have to blah, 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 Liz Cheney, all that stuff. And so it's just very different. And I think sometimes people don't fully understand the difference between those two, because on X and Threads and certainly Blue Sky, where the center actually is so far off kilter. Like what happens on the internet is not real life. What happens on Twitter is not real life. So that's just the last point I wanted to make.
Well, we should let him go. He's got a birthday party to go to, right?
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Mike. Do you got anything to plug? Last words?
No, I would say if you didn't hate what I had to say today, check me out at endlessurgency.com for my Substack or youtube.com/Mike_Nellis. I shoot videos where I take on these MAGA influencers and call them out for being completely full of shit and leading us into this moment in time that we're in. But I enjoyed this chat, guys. I'm happy to come back and anytime.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
And I apologize for the tech issues at the end.
Thanks so much, Mike.
It's all good.
No worries.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one, Mike.
You too.
We do actually have some polling, very limited polling, but we have some polling to show just how people feel about Hassan Piker. And it shouldn't really surprise anyone, but most people just have not heard of him. It's like somewhere around 50 to 55% of voters have not heard of him. What I was surprised by was there was a Harvard poll from a year ago. Now, these numbers might have shifted because I think Hassan has done a really good job of getting his name out there in the last year. But according to Harvard, among young people aged 18 to 29, he was actually pretty unpopular. It was like 7% had a net approval, and then something like 15% disapprove, and then 20% didn't have enough knowledge of him to have an opinion, and the rest didn't know who he was. And so that doesn't really match the rhetoric that you see online from people like I've Had It Lady and Hassan himself, who seem to be claiming that he's like leading the charge for the Democratic Party.
My problem with this discourse is it's people are trying to turn it into, should we talk to him? Nobody's arguing, should you talk to him? It's about when you go on there, you should confront him. Nobody is challenging him. Why are you so down on the Democrats?
Well,
why are you saying this crazy shit? Like nobody challenges him on any of this. They just go there and have some sort of dumb fluff interview like he's anybody else.
Well, even when they do, Guy, I don't know. Did you watch Adam Mockler go on? Who's like Adam, he's a Democrat cheerleader. He's very, very liberal. He's very anti.
He's a communist.
Hassan, the Hassan doomerism. And as soon as he confronted him on any of these substantive points, Hassan, like, totally, in my opinion, bitched out and kind of moderated on
Yes.
every single thing he truly believes, because he knows when he's like on a show with this person who's actually challenging him, it's going to look bad if he goes up there and starts talking about how, you know, America is this imperialist evil state that deserves to fall.
Right. But people let him get away with it. It's like, if you went on Nick Fuentes' show, you're not just going to chill out with Nick and be like, whatever. You're going to challenge him over and over and over, you know?
There are, to be clear, there are some voices that are saying don't even have a conversation with them. Like, you know, that was kind of the third way, that group, didn't they send a questionnaire to Ossoff or something like that?
To all the 2028 candidates, they asked him if they would appear on his show or something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how influential is Third Way. I mean, do they have a ton of sway?
I'd never even heard about it
Yeah,
before
I
this
haven't heard of
controversy, to be honest.
No,
I've heard of
no.
I've heard of Third Way, like in the political sort of theory of it, but like I've never heard of that group except outside of this controversy. I just think that we should be clear about what the prescriptions are. If IRI is correct, that the controversy is we'll just challenge him, that's great. I love that prescription. That's a great prescription. And disagree with him, that's a great prescription. So I just think people need to be specific about that. I think when it's like this coalition building thing, it's so nebulous and unclear what people are talking about.
Yeah, like, people gave me shit for being on the PV panel, which I accept as potentially harmful optically. But my opinion of this is, look, if this guy's going to help candidates I want to get elected, give me your money, give me your support. If you're asking me to support you, absolutely not, because you've indicated that you will absolutely drop support the instant it's not convenient to you, or you just have a slight disagreement. But yeah, like if Nick Fuentes was like, I'll give you $10 million to get John Ossoff elected in the Georgia swing election, I'd be like, fuck yeah, all right, thanks, buddy. Now fuck off. Like,
yeah. Well, again, I think people are trying to like change the conversation into like, should we talk to Hassan or not? I think we should talk to everybody. That's what Rokana said, and I agree with him. But I'm just disappointed with when people go on his show, they aren't challenging him as much as I would like.
But they don't know who he is. That's the thing. Like,
you're right.
He to your point, or whoever made that, was it you, Soy Pill, when he was talking to Mockler, or was that you, IRI? But
that was me.
Well, but Mockler got dragged into it too. I'll let you finish, Hutch. But Mockler starts saying, "Yeah, I'm disappointed with the Democrats too," and it's like,
yeah, I did not think that was Mockler's strongest performance. But
yeah, because he just Mott and Bailey'd that whole conversation. So Mockler is forced to agree with the agreeable points of Democrats sometimes underdeliver. Democrats don't, do everything they need to, and then he's not saying Democrats are evil, I need to subvert them and take control of the Democratic Party, essentially, which is like,
that's what's important.
Believes.
Like, how you phrase the criticism of Democrats, I think really, really fucking matters to me, because I'm just going to be honest, and everyone should know this. Democrats have worse net approval overall than Republicans. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to lose the midterms. They're in a very, very strong position for midterms. It just means there's a lot of self-hatred among Democrats. And I think that it's bullshit to think that that is all because of like dead end or tankies that aren't really that relevant. There are a lot of people who are pissed off at the Democratic Party, and those criticisms are real and they need to be aired out, and it can't just be this kind of closed system.
Yeah, we can't
so how
that
the
ground
of Democrats,
which is why IRI, as much as I love that you are a Democrat's strongest warrior, some just sprinkle in one criticism for every 20 compliments, just so we don't
he's criticizing you, IRI.
Yeah, this is my Democratic criticism.
Give it back.
I do. Once in a while, I do put something out there, say I'm disappointed they didn't do this or that. There was something recently. If I think of it, I'll bring it up here. But I mean, I do. I don't think the Democrats are perfect. I think you're going to lose your audience if you go out there and say they're perfect, right? So of course, I acknowledge that there's room for improvement.
Yeah, and actually, I see Straderate in the chat. She said something good, which was when Bernie Sanders went and talked to Hassan. Hassan tried to bait him into like shit talking Gavin Newsom.
Yeah,
Bernie Sanders didn't. He absolutely rejected that immediately. He was like, "No, I like the guy, and sometimes we disagree." It's like he's not gonna fucking let you like use him as this like spear point to fuck Dems over, because he's Bernie. People criticize him that he didn't drop out fast enough in 2016, but you know what? He endorsed Hillary Clinton. He was full on for Biden in 2020 when he didn't win.
Bernie's a pragmatist. He knows you got to work with the people around you to get shit done.
So the question is, should the Democratic nominee, when they're the Democratic nominee in 2028, should they go on Hassan's podcast? The answer from all of us is yes. That's correct.
Sure.
Yes, but they need to do a lot of prep. Like it needs to be like 3 days of prep. I'm not even kidding.
Like Gavin Newsom went on Charlie Kirk and had Steve Bannon. Like these people are pretty extreme people. Steve Bannon, especially father of the alt-right. But you know what? Like his biggest criticisms coming out from that was not you went on the show. It was you didn't push back enough. And that's the thing that you can't do if he walks away from the Hassan Piker episode and it looks like he just capitulated everything. But he can go on.
Hassan is a charmer,
it feels like we're clear then. The answer is interact with everyone, as Ira said. Just push back more. And
yes,
I think that's fine. I don't understand why there's so much consternation. Yeah.
I don't understand. I think there's disagreement because people are getting dragged down in this argument of should you even talk to him, right? And that's not even the debate. That's not the debate that people against associating with Hassan are making. And somehow it got dragged into that. Like I don't think Hutch would have a problem with anybody talking to Hassan. I think Hutch is the #1 Hassan hater here. I'm probably second, but I think he would be perfectly fine with every single 2028 candidate going on Hassan's show. But it's a matter of, why did you say America deserved 9/11? I disagree with you. And why did you say this? Why did you say that? Why don't you be more supportive of the Democrats? Challenge them, make them explain it.
I think it's fair. What do you think, Hutch?
I agree.
I agree. You look skeptical. Oh, okay.
No. I mean, I think Hassan is he's a very deceptive guy. And so like he has like a system and you need to be aware of that system. And I think honestly his platform is too big to ignore. And so I think there's like a practical argument here where if you don't go on that platform on his stream, then people are going to accuse you of ducking him. Like he's not as big as Rogan, but he's big enough to have that kind of pull. And so I do think that, and I also think that like voters want to see like an authentic, like they don't like, it just needs to be authentic. And so if you go in there and you fight with someone, I think that's fine. You can have that kind of conflict. But what they're not going to appreciate is if somebody goes on there and, softens their rhetoric or tries to appease him. And so, if that turns into a knockdown, drag out fight, that's fine. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but you do need to be prepared to push back because, Hassan Piker is not a Democrat. He is not invested in the long-term success of the Democratic Party. And people just need to understand that and proceed accordingly.
Well,
we should get you on Hassan Piker show.
Oh, Hutch?
We would never.
Well, one thing I appreciate is that every time I meet a Hassan fan in real life, I'm either surprised because I knew them before and I'm like, you don't strike me as someone who shares this person's belief, or I'm pleasantly surprised when they explain their beliefs and they're not the worst things that Hassan believes. And because he is sneaky and because he can disguise a lot of his more extreme takes, I think the reason you need to use this audience is that they're not all Hassan. They're people that hear the populist rhetoric and they say, oh, this is good. I want to, like fix healthcare. I want these things to be better. And like, if you think that his 50,000 concurrent streamer viewers are all like, yeah, let's like make America like, fall to Western Chinese influence. Yeah, a good chunk of them will, but a whole bunch of them are just like, wow, this guy's finally talking about things that I like, just like Bernie. And if you completely write him off in a way, you're also going to write those people off. And I think you need to drag a lot of those people out of there.
You're going there to talk to the audience. You're not going to convince us on. It's like when I do my debates, and I'm sure Pisco, Soy, you guys, and even in Hutch, you're debating too. You're not going to convince the person you're talking to, but there's people listening and they're not as invested. They don't have an image to uphold. Their pride's not on the line. Maybe you can get them to go Google some of this shit and maybe get out of that funk.
I don't know what you guys think, but I think that 2028 has the potential to be more contentious and more vitriolic and more toxic than 2016. Because, to your point, Pisco, it is true that the Democratic Party approval right now is abysmal, the worst it's ever been, as far as I understand.
Yep.
And yet, I mean, you would think that now would be the time that would be the best opportunity for like a left-wing insurgency, but that's not happening. And so I think that bitterness and resentment about that, and of course they subscribe to a narrative that the only reason that's not happening is because the big bad establishment is like blocking them from power. And I think that's going to make them more and more and more angry. And so I do worry about where that's going.
This is why I love Zoran Mamdani, because he gives a voice to that group. And he's under the Democratic Party's umbrella and he's willing to work with Kathy Hochul and other Democrats. So I think it's fantastic. I think that calms them down.
I saw a coalition. I hope so. I think that's a model too, that in terms of like insurgent socialist or left-wing candidates that they can look to, at least someone who's not a dead ender. I saw a chapter or a coalition under the DSA after AOC had sort of suggested that she was not willing to fund Israel anymore, which I think is the correct position, even including with the Iron Dome missile defense system, that wasn't good enough for them. That like this, whatever, I forget, is it DSA Emerge or whatever, that they were like, this is not good enough because you still said that Iron Dome is this or that. And so, yeah, I mean, these people are dead enders. Who cares about it? And maybe Hassan is more aligned to those people or not, but just use their audiences, just use their audience against them. On some issues, though, I will say I'm more offended by the quote unquote centrist Democrat-y types than I am by Hassan. I'll give you those issues and I'll give you those examples. Fetterman. I am more offended by John Fetterman than I am of Hassan Piker's views. I'm just going to be flat out and say it. And that the fact that like Fetterman is going on, who's this motherfucker who's advocating for the war? He has his Fox News show, Mark Levin. He's going on Mark Levin's show, and Mark Levin is odious. I would take Hassan Piker 1,000 times over Mark Levin and any of these warmonger, disgusting MAGA freaks that we seem to be just like, that doesn't have the same social taboo, I think, amongst some liberals. And so it's just important to keep these things in perspective.
I hear you on that, Pisco, but at the same time, John Fetterman was no obstruction to Biden's agenda. He played ball on all the legislation they passed. He never got in the way. And I understand this issue is caused him to go with the right, but I would still argue that he's there. And if he is in power in 2029, I think he'll be a team player.
There's no way he's going to survive a primary. There's no way.
I agree. But if he was, do you guys think he would not be a team player, that he would be the Joe Manchin of
He's a shit talker. He's talking more shit about Democrats than Hassan does. He goes on Fox News and my party sucks. Everyone in my party's crazy. Fuck John Fetterman. And honestly, and a lot of these lefties supported John Fetterman I never trusted him in the primary process. But yeah, no, there are just levels to this. And I think that MAGA is on the absolute bottom in the American context here. And I think that the Democrats need to shift more to the left on economic stuff. And yes, on Israel.
Okay, but do you think something changed between 2021 and 2024?
For Fetterman?
For Fetterman, yeah, because he was fully on board with the Democratic Party's agenda, and he was still doing little Fox hits here and there. Obviously, he didn't have the attention he has now, and he didn't say that the number one enemy is Trump derangement.
I can't speculate. I can only look at the results. Maybe the stroke had something to do with it. Maybe he just doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on the Israel stuff. Maybe there's some other reason for why he's talking shit every 2 seconds. Remember, Fetterman was the one Democratic vote for Pam Bondi. For Pam fucking Bondi. Yeah. Why are any Democrats voting for Republican candidates? I think there was another Democrat
he's pretty isolated, though. He doesn't have like a ton of institutional support, right? I mean, he feels like he's off on his own little island, and he's not going to survive a primary. So that's going to be like the process playing out and sort of self-correcting, right?
No, absolutely. And I think that that's good, Hutch. And I think that you're right. I think that it shows that there's a self-correction mechanism, that there are Democrats who are keeping an eye on our elected officials. All I'm trying to say is to put in perspective that Democrats have a series of attributes and aspects and policy positions. And some to me are more offensive than others. And I consider what Fetterman is doing and the Fetterman the Fetterman types, these kind of enlightened, my party sucks. I just find that to be odious and reprehensible. And maybe I'm fucked up that offends me more than like the dead ender Hassan types, but it does, especially when they're in power.
Agree. He was on Fox News the other day, and he said that the leader of the Democratic Party is Trump derangement syndrome, and that's not helping.
That's crazy.
That's not helping, man.
That's insane. But you should push back on Hassan Piker. I fucking hate the Crimea stuff. I will note, though, that it's a little weird for people to be like, my red line in the sand is his comments on Crimea, and then like complain about red lines being drawn on Israel. Like if it's like a weird thing to put in a line for some sort of foreign conflict vis-a-vis like just as a principled matter to be a dead ender when it comes to, and listen, I totally support Ukraine, continuing to fund Ukraine. I think that Russia's invasion is completely reprehensible. We should be fighting against Russia, etc. But just be consistent about it. And if you're going to have a dead end position on foreign conflicts, I don't think that in principle, I don't really see a reason to be so offended by drawing a red line in one and not the other.
I don't know. Most of the people that I've seen drawing a red line about Hassan is for his other rhetoric. And I think just the fact that he said what he said about Crimea just illustrates that he's not consistent on his anti-imperialism, anti-war position. He's only anti-imperialism if it's,
vis-a-vis the West. 100%.
Western backed, right? Yeah.
But,
his position sucks.
We got a chat from Wick. Everyone, Fetterman or Hassan, who are you voting for in 2028?
Fetterman.
Hassan.
Wow.
I'm voting Fetterman.
I'm voting Fetterman.
You guys are insane. You guys are. I mean,
No.
I think
No,
that's
not
crazy.
at all. Hassan
He's against the Save
is
America Act.
anti-democracy. Fetterman's stupid and awful, but I don't think he's going to try to like
Okay.
destroy the American system.
I think that's crazy. But
We
okay.
already talked about this though, Pisco. Like, would you
Yeah.
feel confident that he would not go to China and give up our secrets?
I have no view on that. He's gonna. I don't know that he's a Chinese spy. You have the access to that. That you think he's gonna
No.
nuke
No,
Israel
I
Do you
and give
think
up
he's
his
more
spies?
sympathetic to China
I'm-
than America is the question. Not do you
Yeah,
think
he's definitely
Chinese
sympathetic
spy?
to China. Yes, he's
Okay, so
definitely
you don't think
sympathetic
he'd
to China.
sell
Yes.
sell
Not
us out to China's
sympathetic.
interests?
No.
Do you think
not
that Fetterman is going to
sympathetic.
sell secrets to Israel? Is Fetterman going to sell secrets to Israel?
I mean,
He's the biggest
technically-
Israel simp I've ever seen.
Well, technically, Israel's a partner, but I'm saying, like,
Israel shouldn't be a partner.
No, I
This is
understand-
crazy.
I understand. No, I understand that, but I'm just saying strategically that it's like worse. What do you think would be worse, like selling our secrets to Israel or selling our secrets to China?
I'm not sure that anyone's on the
China.
books. Right now, I think that
It should be
currently it'd be
easily
worse
China,
to sell
I think,
secrets to China. Currently, I
Yeah.
think it's worse to sell secrets to China, 100%. But if you ask me in terms of the totality of policies, in this hypothetical, I would pick Hassan any day of the week. Fetterman is a MAGA sellout. He is a MAGA sellout. He's saying every Democrat has Trump derangement syndrome. He's voting for Republican MAGA bills.
He's against the Save America Act. He can't be full MAGA.
He's in favor of the Lake and Riley Act. He's in favor of funding
So
ICE
is
and DHS.
Ossoff.
He's in favor.
So was Raphael Warnock.
Yeah, okay, and that's bad. And Ossoff gets points deducted from that. He's not in my S tier. He's in my B tier because of what he did there, and he should apologize for that shit. But I have no tolerance for MAGA whatsoever, MAGA sympathies whatsoever. And frankly, I think this discourse is fucked. And I'm not going to engage in it anymore on like the coalition building, non-coalition. I think it's stupid as fuck. But yeah, I think Fetterman sucks, and I think that people who, for example, who say that like Trump isn't that bad, or that like the party needs to stop being so up in arms about Trump when he is giving these like insane takes, part of this illegal war. Fetterman is supporting the illegal war in Iran. This is one of the worst policies we've ever done. It's an affront to the Constitution. It's an affront to everything that he was supposed to stand for, from the ideological position on no new wars. Hassan wouldn't get us into that. And that is just a concrete
Hassan would
situation.
break from NATO. He'd sell us out to China. He
Yeah,
would
we'd be
do a
doing-
lot worse.
Trump
than
is
just
saying he's going to
illegal
get us out of
Iran.
NATO. This is
Yeah.
insane.
We'd be doing
Trump is
Fetterman's
anti-NATO.
Not MAGA. Like he's defending MAGA in a lot of
Fetterman
ways,
is
but he's
supporting
not as bad.
Fetterman is supporting the alleged president in this conduct, which is fracturing NATO and showing NATO to be toothless. Unfortunately, and it's causing Trump to break from NATO and put pressure on our NATO allies. I mean, anyone who's supporting this war, it should be a line in the sand. The mere fact that I have to argue like this is an illegal war, it is fucking up American foreign policy interests. It is going to spend a lot of billions of dollars, and I don't understand how we can. Anyone who supports it, that's like one of the worst things you could do.
But there's public perception of the funding as well. And a lot of people out there may think that if you're voting no on supplemental funds, you're abandoning our troops. That may be a big reason why some of these guys are voting no, or voting for it.
That's not Fetterman. Fetterman is cheerleading the war. So, I mean, we can talk about like why are you laughing? Is that, you don't believe that? Fetterman is Fetterman cheerleading the war, yes or no?
I have not seen his thoughts on the war. I'll take your word for it that he is, and I agree he's misstepping. But I'm just saying in general, somebody like Jerry Golden or any moderate Dem, I think would vote for it possibly because their district believes it would be abandoning the troops who at that moment if we don't.
And that is fucked. And that is fucked because this war should be a litmus test. I'm not saying that you shouldn't vote for a Democrat who, like, given the choice between Fetterman and a die-in-the-wool like MAGA person that's further even MAGA, I obviously would pick Fetterman over that. But this war, the policies related to ICE,
private property, I stand Lenin, who like genocided the kulaks. Like this is not like, I think you're not weighing the totality of the worst things he said.
Of course I am.
Fetterman's
Of course I am. And of
bullshit.
course, I mean, like, we're doing the same thing with the Epstein hypothetical and all this stuff and like the checks. I'm not assuming he's going to be able to achieve those aims. And given that fact,
well, so then now you're making a guardrails argument. Where
it's not a guardrail. It's just, okay. So when someone asks you who you're going to vote for president, Soypill, in any hypothetical, you're assuming total dictatorial power, right? That's what you're assuming when you're asked that question.
No, I'm assuming
Just
that even them just in power is going to be worse for the country if they can shift the Overton window towards more of their politics. I think that's fundamentally worse.
I asked you a question. When someone asks you if in a hypothetical you choose one president over another, are you assuming complete and total dictatorial power, yes or no?
Basically, because I'm assuming the worst, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So that is not how, when I ask the question and when that question is asked to me, Someone just scoffed. So when you're asked the question, who would you vote for president? Are you assuming the normal constraints on a president, or are you assuming complete and total absolute authority?
Are you asking me or whoever scoffed?
Whoever scoffed. I mean, there was a hutch, right? I mean, like, do
the
you really
point of this is
assume when someone asks you the
Pisco-
question
the
about the
point of this
president?
is Pisco, would
Scott's
you vote
crazy.
for Donald Trump if you thought he could get nothing done versus Fetterman, who you think would be worse and could get the war in Iran passed? Like, if you thought that might happen, maybe, but that's not how I operate when I'm voting for someone. I'm like, damn, I don't want this person.
You don't
anywhere
think
near
about what
power,
they could do?
even if I think the guardrails could keep them in. Like, I would have thought the guardrails would have kept Trump.
You
from
don't
doing
consider
tons
what
of
they
shit.
could do, what they're able to
that's
do.
what
You
I'm
don't
saying.
consider
I
that?
absolutely
Okay.
consider what they could do, but I also consider, hey, there are a bunch of norms being violated that I never thought might be broken in my lifetime, and I'm not going to risk the person who's saying the worst
And
things.
Fetterman abides
held
it.
by the-
Fetterman abides it.
Hold on.
Fetterman
Pisco,
abides ICE abuses and constitutional disgusting conduct. So he's on all fours.
I am the scoffer. Okay, I scoff because of the ridiculousness of Fetterman, not your point. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm not kidding. I agree that Fetterman is doing some ridiculous things right now, and I'm just laughing at how absurd he is, like saying that we have Trump derangement syndrome on our side. So I agree with you that he's misstepping. I'm just trying to make an argument for the other moderates who may end up voting for something like this or supporting it.
I don't think Fetterman's putting on a show. I just think he is this guy. Like, I think he genuinely believes these things. And, I think he managed to hide a lot of that from the voters when he was running. And now the voters can see.
I disagree with that.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I don't think he's hiding anything. I think Israel kind of broke his brain for whatever reason. I don't know. It happened to a lot of people on the other side of the issue too, where they're like, it's
that's a
Israel
problem.
go down.
It's
broke a lot of people's
It's anti-Semitic to suggest that Mossad used a stroke gun on John Fetterman, guy, and I will not.
I don't think he has Savannah syndrome.
Well, okay, but real quick, Pisco, you're like, he supports weakening NATO because in supporting this war and Trump's rhetoric on it, that is like, hey, NATO, you're not helping us, and maybe he even wants to do like the Iraq thing, invoke Article 5 to get NATO allies to help us in the Strait of Hormuz. John Fetterman is still unequivocally pro-NATO. Hassan is unequivocally anti-NATO, and like almost worse than Trump is. And so like the idea that like, I'm going to weigh these things equally because of his tacit support for the war in Iran, I think is really bearing the lead of one of these people wants to dismantle this entire thing and thinks it's a force for evil, and the other person unequivocally supports it but might be undermining it by supporting Trump's war.
He genuinely believes that America is the most evil country that has ever existed on the face of the planet. When he talks to like young lefty audiences, he will tell them you're in the belly of the beast. I mean, like that. He genuinely believes that. He believes that the Republican Party is the most evil institution on the planet. And he believes the Democratic Party is the second most.
Hassan is bad. Hassan has really bad beliefs.
Yeah.
Hassan would not even be on my top 10,000 list of candidates that I would probably choose random Democratic person over Hassan.
I think the point that IRI and Soypol are trying to make is that someone like Fetterman can vote with Democrats like well over 90% of the time and have really bad takes, but that's not quite as bad as somebody who is genuinely invested in like the downfall of America as it currently is.
Okay, I disagree that Fetterman is not a devoted, at least in result, to the downfall of America as it is. You say that like he's ideologically committed to the downfall of America. You say what? What did you say? What to? What's the what position? What's the what position?
I don't understand how you could possibly not
No, I'm asking what is the what position? You said what? What was so ridiculous?
That John Fetterman is as
what is the what position? No.
I'm asking you the question. Do you think that John Fetterman is as invested as Hassan Piker in the downfall of America?
I said that in result that Fetterman's actions would contribute more to the downfall of America than than Hassan to the extent that he's ideologically committed to it. Yes, that's my answer. In result, not
how. How
okay.
Could you possibly believe that?
I think so. I think that this war, the Iran war, is contributing to the decline of America in a geostrategic way, in a way that we've like not seen before. And so number one, support for this war from an internal constitutional perspective, from a geostrategic interest, this has helped Iran, weakened America, weakened our alliances with our actual friends, like the Five Eyes, with Canada, with Australia, with all of EU. And so when I tell you that this war is contributing to the downfall of America, I believe it. I think that's true, regardless
the consequences of his support with Iran versus someone who fundamentally believes we should pull out of NATO, that US aid is like a CIA front that we should have dismantled anyway, that we should capitulate to China. These are not equal things, not even close.
Wait, what is not equal to what?
You are saying that his
Answer the fucking question. What is not equal to what? Answer. So what is the thing that's not equal to something else?
I'm answering. Listen, his support of Iran and the damage this is doing, which I don't disagree with, is somehow equal to Hassan's fundamental view and desire to dismantle America as the hegemon.
I never said they were equal in what respect. They're
well,
not
if
the same
they're not
thing.
equal,
What do you
one
mean
is
by
worse,
equal?
right?
Well, wait. In terms of worseness, his dead ender position that America is the great empire, the great Satan, whatever you want to say, that belief. What action are you expecting that is equal and comparable to what's going on with the Iran war? What action?
Literally try to make. He would try to make.
Answer the question. Answer.
Hold on. He would literally try to make Iran like a strategic partner, bro. He would try to become allies with
like
them.
Obama, like Obama,
no,
like Obama.
I mean, like an actual
like
strategic
Carter.
Partner. I mean, like someone. He supports Iran. Do you understand? He supports Iran. That's his position.
Okay.
If he's pro Hezbollah, if he's pro
so
like terrorist organization because they're the resistance, is that really the same consequentially as this guy's doing a bad policy that will make America weaker on a stage versus I fundamentally believe America should ally itself with terrorist groups and also like dismantle all of its reach across the country for better or for worse. Like these are not equal things. And if you think one is worse, unless the only argument you're giving is he couldn't do it, which is I don't think a very strong argument. I think obviously you are picking Fetterman over this.
He couldn't do what? He couldn't do what?
Unilaterally pull out of NATO, right?
He couldn't do
Joe
what?
Biden introduced legislation that is preventing Trump to an extent from doing this, right? So like if your argument is, well, he couldn't do it, so it's okay that he believes that? I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Soy pill. I said it was okay that Hassan believes that it's good to pull out NATO. I said that, right?
No, I didn't say that.
So I didn't say that, right?
I didn't say you said that.
And I didn't suggest it either.
I didn't say that you suggested it. I said
no. You just said so it's good, so it's okay. You just said so it's okay. Do you think that I have to believe that it's okay
to something that Fetterman is doing? I don't think you think it's good. I think that you think that he couldn't accomplish this, therefore it somehow isn't as bad, and you would pick him over, right?
Well, I think that makes a logical sense. If you don't think that he's going to be successful in an action, that
if you don't think, and I'm not so confident,
weighing it as much, right?
I don't think that should be the deciding factor as to whether or not you allow this person to have executive power.
Wait, Soy Pill, aren't you the big the whole guardrails are failing guy? Now you're saying the guardrails are
no. I'm saying that's what Pisco is saying. I'm saying I don't trust the guardrails to hold because like Hassan will be kept in line. He won't break any norms. Like we'll check his power. I'm like no, fuck that. I'm not putting this person in power. I'm not risking that.
Fetterman would like appoint some crazy conservative judge to the Supreme Court.
No,
Fetterman
he would not. I don't think he would do that.
Fucking would.
No, he would not do that. Why would it? Like, you understand that he?
So you guys are sweeping for Fetterman. You realize that, right? You're sweeping for MAGA. That's what you're doing. You like MAGA. You don't think MAGA's that bad. You don't think MAGA's that bad. I wasn't convinced of that, Hutch, but now I'm convinced that you don't think MAGA's that bad.
Pisco, there's a difference between saying that that Fetterman has taken some bad positions and like voted with Trump some of the times or whatever. But the reality is he has voted with Democrats like over 90% of the time. Like he does support Democratic Party policies. I want him primaried. I think he's a bad Democrat. I think he's bad for the like party brand overall. And I think he's really unpopular and he's going to be primaried. But that doesn't mean that he's like literally MAGA. He would appoint a conservative Supreme Court justice. I don't understand like the basis to make that.
The guy is okay. So what's more offensive to you? What's more offensive to you? Him going out and trashing our party constantly. That's John Fetterman. And Hassan does that too.
Right.
From the perspective. No. So they're equal on that front. Agreed. And in some case, Fetterman's worse in that he's downplaying. So Fetterman is downplaying Trump, correct? And Hassan is not.
Hassan is downplaying Trump as well.
Is that? Can you answer that question?
That's one aspect, though, Pisco. That's one aspect.
Wait. Can you wait? Hutch, answer. So is Fetterman downplaying Trump? Wait. So Hutch. I'm not going to. So Hutch.
Do you understand? He thinks like the whole country is evil.
Hutch.
He thinks it's an evil country.
Is it Hutch? Is it the case that Fetterman downplays MAGA? Yes or no?
Yes, at times. Yeah, I think so.
And he does so more than Hassan, correct?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know if Hassan ever downplays MAGA, but the question is who is like.
Yeah. So in terms of the identification of the threat to this country, in terms of what I think is the overall state of the base, the Democratic base, and what have you, I think that.
But Pisco, I don't think.
Why are you laughing?
Because I don't think you're processing fully processing that Hassan Piker legitimately thinks that America is the most evil country that has ever existed.
He's
The
a
whole
Marxist
structure,
Leninist.
the whole-
He's a Marxist Leninist.
Like that in totality is like way worse than
Pisco, can
than
I ask-
Fetterman. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Pisco, do you think Fetterman is siding with MAGA because he wants MAGA to win, or he wants the Democrats to do something different?
No, I think that he is MAGA light. I think that he wants aspects of
No.
MAGA to win over. I don't think he thinks that Trump is that bad, and I think that he wants Democrats to be more on board with MAGA actions.
Okay,
I think
I disagree. I think he wants Democrats to win and do better, maybe to moderate a little bit. He feels they've gone too far on some things, but I think it's nowhere near MAGA light. But you're entitled to your opinion.
All right.
I mean,
We could
so
go
you
on
think
on
that you think that he consciously thinks, as he goes on his shows with Mark Levin, this disgusting freak, and on these Fox News shows with these disgusting MAGA freaks, that he's doing what's in the best interest of the Democrats to win. That's your
Yes,
thought process?
I think he's in his heart, he thinks he's helping the Democratic Party by trying to correct them from going
Yeah.
too far. I believe that.
Yeah.
I think he's a
agree.
free rider. I think he's disgusting. And I think that he's abiding by this unconstitutional terrorist threat of these MAGA elitists who are destroying our country from within and without and
Why
making
doesn't
our
he
country
switch
weaker.
parties? Why doesn't he switch parties?
I think you
Oh,
can
he
make a
might.
valid argument for that, Pisco. I
might.
just disagree, but I
No,
think
but-
you can make a valid argument.
But Pisco, answer that question. Like,
Yeah.
why doesn't he switch to Republican? What's
Because
stopping
he
him?
loves being
Or
the
independent
He
even.
loves he loves being the guy. He loves being the guy that the one good Democrat. These people, these enlightened centrists, Hutch, and you understand this, have a sexual attraction and fetish to being this. I say both sides. I say both sides. You know it's sexual. It's the Chris Cuomo's of the world. It's Stephen A. Smith. It's all these motherfuckers. They get their dicks hard being the one guy who calls out their own side. That's why.
You know what gets
That's
me
my
hard?
legitimate
It's being
answer.
Fired up. That's what gets me hard.
Wait, let's
Hey, it's good to have you
up.
back, brother.
I want to move on from this because we got like 10 minutes left, and we haven't talked
Yeah.
about the birthright citizenship case, and that's a Pisco's.
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
ballgame. Did you guys watch?
That's my shit.
that
That's my
fucking
jam. That's my
hearing?
jelly. That's everything.
Because I got hard during that when even Sam
I got hard.
Alito was carrying weight for the fucking ACLU and saying like, yeah, resting this entire case on the idea that domicile is like the one determining factor and not just like an additive here is kind of ridiculous. So much so that the ACLU lawyer was like almost trying to argue with him until was it Ketanji Brown Jackson clarified, or maybe it was Sotomayor was like, no, I think he's actually agreeing with your point that domicile here is clearly not the distinguishing factor as to whether or not you need it to be a citizen. And so I think that was just such a total fucking embarrassment for that Trump lawyer.
Wait,
That
so
was
Swipo, would you say that that the Supreme Court is actually a pretty important guardrail and that it is meaningfully constraining this administration?
yeah, I don't think it's completely 100% capitulated to Trump, but once you make the immunity case, I think you lose a lot of will from me.
I just think that this is like another example of this administration just being really impotent in a lot of ways. I think it's a pathetic administration, and a lot of the rhetoric that I hear about the administration is that he's like all powerful, and I just keep seeing the system check him over and over and over again.
Yeah, that
And
was to your credit.
I also want to ask Pisco if he did you look at the executive order that he did with respect to mail-in ballots or whatever, and do you anticipate that that's going to survive judicial review?
I don't think that it will be upheld by the courts. So I did a little Josiah segment on it. So let's start first with the birthright citizenship issue. I think that it went very poorly for the administration, and some of the most brutal questions were from Gorsuch. Gorsuch was really taking them to task on the foundation of their rule. They argue that rather than construe this phrase "subject to the jurisdiction thereof" to mean like what jurisdiction means in the context of the 1860s, that they invent this new thing of lawful domicile. And he was putting them through a bunch of hypotheticals, including a question that everyone should have an answer to if you're engaged in this discussion, which is, what about the children of American Indians who have sovereignty over their tribal lands? This is like a level 1 hypothetical, level 1 argument in terms of the historical discussions that everyone needs to be prepared for, because the answer is no. The answer is no. They're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States in the way the 14th Amendment anticipates. And everyone agrees with this. But the way Gorsuch asked the question, he's like, well, under your test of lawful domicile, wouldn't, under the 14th Amendment, these people be lawfully domiciled and therefore get birthright citizenship? And he said, I need to think about that. Yes. So that's a straight contradiction. They can't both be subject to the jurisdiction and not subject to the jurisdiction. And so that was a brutal moment. And there were many moments like that. I think that this increased my prior that the executive order is going to be overturned, and I would expect to see a 6-3 or 7-2 decision on the result, maybe a fractured rationale. Maybe they'll go with the statutory argument, but I think even Kavanaugh's in play there. On the question on the executive order for mail-in ballots, I think it's clear the president doesn't have authority to do what he's doing. If you look at the actual executive order, the statute he cites doesn't give him that power to do that. They cited like the guarantee clause. And so I think there's been a lot of litigation so far that's been initiated, including by Mark Elias and by several states. And so I expect this order to be struck down.
Well, it doesn't seem like Trump was very happy with how things were going during the oral arguments either. He left after the Solicitor General finished. Didn't even bother to hear the other side. He's like, I'm fucked. I'm out of here.
Well, to be fair, he probably didn't understand what was going on. Right? He's just like, I don't know what these words mean. I'm bored.
There was one line from, was it Roberts, where he said well, the times may have changed, but it's the same constitution or something like that. And once I heard that, I was like, damn, that doesn't sound good for the administration.
Yeah. Even the Roberts questions that were like a little critical of the ACLU, it wasn't full, like it didn't really feel that bad. Well, and I thought the ACLU, go for it.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No.
Oh, I was going to say, I think even Amy Coney Barrett brought up this idea of foundlings, that if a baby's just turned over, like at a fire station, and you don't know who the parents are, is it an American citizen or not? I mean, it's just absurd what he's trying to do here.
Right. And I really liked, as a layman, listening to this legalese and then being able to boil this down to, if your theory is correct on the Trump side, what you're saying is that the executive can at any point just decide what citizenship means and retroactively remove it from a bunch of Americans. And this is absurd and clearly not the intention of the Constitution, and also just not feasible. And like the only thing they could defend against that was like, well, you're not asking us to come up with a pragmatic solution for this. We just want to make the argument, and then we'll figure out how to fucking remove specifically the people we want, which is just like such a weak, limp dick thing that even the Supreme Court, even the conservative judges were like shitting on them for that, which was nice.
Yeah, I had this conversation with an immigration lawyer where the kind of position that the administration is taking is something like that you only get citizenship by grace of the king, by grace of here Trump, right?
Well,
that is the kind of the way that
card, right?
Yeah. yes. And that, by the way, that irony should not be lost on anybody, that everyone's talking about, oh, you're cheapening citizenship. You're cheapening citizenship by allowing enforcing section or the 14th Amendment. But Trump is literally selling pathways to citizenship through the government with this gold whatever card. So no, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, it really is a disgusting view of citizenship where it just is at the discretion of the president, the alleged president here. But no, I think that it was a good oral argument if you're following it and if you want the Constitution to be enforced. And yeah, I expect now us to see a good opinion over it. But yeah, it's unfortunate that like we even have to litigate it this far. This should not have been, in my opinion, even accepted. It should have just been like Kavanaugh suggested, a 1-paragraph opinion that says, hey, we're upholding Wong Kim Ark, dismissed.
This could have been an email pass hearing. Well, that actually raises two questions for me. The first is, how did you lose that debate to Ryan Mullally so bad? If it was such an obvious case, because I don't know. I heard they voted for him. And second is, why?
Just so you guys know how biased the audience was. How biased the audience was.
It's official.
Anna Kasparian barely. You remember the debate where Pearl like had a stroke on stage and like wasn't able to say, she like won by like 0.5% or something. That audience is super biased, but I'll let him. And I predicted he would get the win from the audience vote from Word War Debate. I'll let him take the win. He looked like a fool, and he got into the same traps as the Solicitor General did. All those same hypotheticals about American Indians, about fugitive slaves, the children of illegally imported slaves. Amy Coney Barrett used that exact same hypothetical that I used to cook Ryan on stage. You guys can all watch it against the Solicitor General, and he also did not have a good answer for it. That's my view.
I was just trying to trigger you, Pisco, but the real question is, why did they hear this case?
They heard this case, I think, because even though the Supreme Court is like it's like they get to choose when to exercise oftentimes their appellate jurisdiction. They will do it if it's a circuit split, or if it's like a really important constitutional issue. I think that there was enough of this rumbling going around that for them it was an important issue, and they've already kind of limited the extent to which lower federal courts can address it on a wide universal basis. And so they felt that it was important to put finality on it because it's an important constitutional issue. I wouldn't have done it, but that's, I guess, their view.
The public definitely is not backing his move here. I think the public still overwhelmingly backs birthright citizenship. And in fact, I don't know if you guys know this, but like, the support for more immigration in this country, I think, has reached an all-time high during this administration. And opposition to more immigration has reached an all-time low. So I think after Trump won in 2024, a lot of us maybe were afraid that the country was like turning into something that looked like him or sounded like him. But that's not what's happening. The country is moving far, far, far away from Trump on a number of issues. Obviously, the economy and the Iran war, but on immigration too. So I think people should feel good about that.
Yeah, like
I think we should
hear
be
you,
really
Pisco.
good about it.
I hear you that this shouldn't have even gotten to the Supreme Court, but at the same time, it put the debate in front of a lot of people, and I learned some things, and I think people have more of appreciation for birthright citizenship now after hearing the discussion.
Yeah, and I said, to Hutch's credit, like I've been more doomer than him in the past, but this was like I was thinking about you the whole time, Hutch. I was listening to this and I was like, damn, if this isn't like the Trump is limp-dicked and flailing and failing and no one supports him and he's fucked. Yeah, like even the Supreme Court, like even the conservative judges that he appointed were like making him look kind of dumb. So yeah.
No,
Consider the
it's
possibility. Consider the possibility that the next Republican crop of politicians in the Congress, whoever becomes the nominee in 2032 or whatever, consider the possibility, and this is the white pill, that they have to become more reasonable to get voters to get back on board with them. That Donald Trump is so bad and will damage their reputation so much in the next few years that they will have to like become at least somewhat more reasonable, and that it doesn't necessarily have to get much, much worse than it is right now.
There's an example of this. The only Supreme Court justice ever impeached, a guy named Samuel Chase, nominated by none other than George Washington. He was impeached. He wasn't convicted because he was a dick, and he would like lecture people from the from the stand or whatever, from the where the judge sits. But it changed the behavior of the Supreme Court for like 100 years. So we may have to impeach one of these motherfuckers in order to correct their behavior. So I believe it can change. Sure.
I am like very hopeful that Democrats will get good results, and that there's like a real world limit to people's preferences. In other words, like when you start to see the gas prices going up, when you can't ignore it, and hopefully that will start to have an effect on politicians. My fear is that so far, at least, Republicans are very tentative. The ones in the House and the Senate. First of all, ideologically, I think a lot of them are with Trump just because they are like Trump, and they've now sort of excelled in a Trumpian era. So I'm not. I think that what we need to see is some sort of effect in the Republican primary and base to start to see Republican politicians change. It's not enough, I think, for the country to be moving away from Trump. I think that ultimately there needs to be some sort of change into the incentive structures of Republicans, and I think as it currently stands, they're much more sensitive to the like Republican primary voter than they are to the general election voter. That's maybe one of the reasons why a lot of them are quitting. I think we've had record. IRI, maybe you can confirm this, record
It's the
retirements
most
for
the most
Republicans.
since the 30s, the most since 1930s. The retirements for an incumbent party in the run up to a midterm. I mean, it's just brutal for them right now. And I don't know, IRI, you said I think like the best case scenario for Democrats in the Senate is like 51 seats. I don't think that's true. I think the best case scenario is like 53 or 54 seats.
Well,
it is possible. It is definitely possible that things could get so bad that we could be having a conversation about Iowa, that we could be having a very serious conversation about Texas. So yeah, I wouldn't limit it to just 51.
I'm saying if we have a good night, 51. If we have an amazing night, sure, you can get up to like 54. Absolutely.
Well, last November, I
so.
told my chat that I would not be happy with just a solid win. I wanted it to be a bloodbath. And I was actually kind of nervous that it wouldn't be a bloodbath. And it was even worse for them than I thought it would be. So I don't know. And things have only gotten worse for this administration so far, like since that election. And give me a plausible path for the Republican Party to like start to rebound these numbers. What does that actually look like when you have someone like Donald Trump in charge of things, who is just actively fucking the country on a number of levels?
Donald Trump becomes the money president and issues $2,000 checks every month to every American citizen. Regardless, fuck the consequences 4 years from now, and no one understands the implications.
I don't even think so. Like, first of all, I could see plausibly him doing one stimmy check to try to do something like that, not monthly stimmy checks. This is the Republican Party. They're not going to pass something like that. I don't even know if they would pass a one-time stimmy check, honestly, right now. I don't know if they have the kind of consensus they would need to do something like that. But even if he mailed everyone $2,000 checks, I don't think that would save them from the midterms. I really don't.
Their plan was fatter tax returns from the one big beautiful bill, and we have data now showing the average tax return is about 11% higher, about $3,600 total. So people are getting like an extra $360 on average. So it's not a game changer. And that's it. They're cooked.
And it doesn't make up for the inflation because of the tariffs and
No,
the gas prices, you know? So like, you know.
Yeah, eaten up instantly by all the other issues. So $400 isn't going to get you through the next 7 months.
Yeah.
Have you seen the independent voting polling, like where he has worse independent polling than Nixon, than like the absolute worst of all time?
Brutal.
It is really white pilling, and for me, the most white pilling thing about it is it seems that so many people are expecting a post-Trump era. That said, I want to make it clear. I think that Trump is going to try to fuck with the elections, and I think Trump is going to try to hold on to power. That's a given. That's always a given. I just don't think he'll be successful, and I think that we're in a really good position to take advantage of it. And I do want to shout out, I think that ultimately the Democratic leadership needs to be changed, especially in the Senate, and I've taken the view that they should have fought on the shutdown earlier and for all the bills, and I think that would have helped them in this current situation. But I'm glad that they stood tall on the DHS funding. I think that's a good move, and I think that it shows that if you just if you really just stick to your guns and you say, listen, if you want to get Democratic votes, you need to meet us in the middle. I think that was a good strat, and I thought that the leadership did a good job on that particular facet of the fight.
Wow. People will say, I'm hearing people say they failed. We didn't talk about that, but people are like, Democrats failed. They didn't get anything. It's all going to be funded, and they got nothing.
Wait, I got triggered. There was this one tweet. Hutch might have responded to it, but there was a guy that was like, Democrats, why aren't you impeaching this guy? And it showed there was like a Twitter note or something right under it, which is like, he just said that Democrats deserve to lose in 2024. I forget what it was, but yeah, those.
Oh no,
suck.
that guy's the worst, bro. That guy's the worst.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one
yeah.
guy, there's one tweet of his where he said, "I'm voting third party, but if I had a preference, I would pick Trump." And like, if you go to this guy's feed every day, it's like, why aren't the Democrats stopping Trump? And it's fucking infuriating. But yeah,
True. Folks, it's so nice to have Hutch. Oh wait, we have to announce something. Swipel. We are not on for tomorrow.
Yes, Taylor Ents has rescheduled again. Now we're shooting for May 7th, I think, is when we have her scheduled. So we're not doubling up this week.
Is it 7th or 2nd? We'll let you guys know on Twitter.
Yeah, we'll let you know. It's whatever the second or first Monday of May is. Yeah, I think it's the 7th. But yeah, no Taylor tomorrow, unfortunately.
Well,
it's good to have
tomorrow's
Hutch
a big
back.
day.
And
8
Tomorrow is
p.m.
the Iran
8
deadline,
p.m.
right?
Eastern Standard Time. Open the fucking
it's the Wisconsin
straight.
Supreme Court election.
Wow.
Wait, tomorrow. I thought you were guys talking about the Wisconsin Supreme Court election.
No way.
And this has been like, if you guys were keeping an eye on us last year around this time, there was the Elon involvement in the Wisconsin Supreme Court election, which actually dictated control of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Rebecca Bradley, who is another retiring Republican Supreme Court justice from Wisconsin Supreme Court, she's not running again, and Democrats, I think, are well positioned to win that seat. But it also happens to be the deadline for when Bridge Day is, and War Crime Day is, and when all that shit's going to go down.
Bridge and Power Plant Day. Must see TV.
shout out real quick to Ezra Klein, because he had an Iran expert come on his podcast last week, and I listened to it. It was like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it was super informative. So if you guys are interested in the dynamic and you want to learn more, check that out.
All right. Well, cool.
Hell yeah.
Good show, guys. What's going on with you guys this week? Hutch,
Who first?
you're back.
I'm just
What's
getting back
going
in I'm just getting back in the groove of things, man. I took a little impromptu break, and so yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do. We'll wake up in the morning and figure it out. But I got nothing special planned for this week. Good to be back though.
Well, Guy, I know I saw you. Pleasant to see you with the UFA and in real life at UCLA. That was cool. People should go check that out. And what else you got going on?
Were you nervous? Were you nervous?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because
you know he performs in front of stadiums for a living.
No, I
right?
mean like a Charlie Kirk situation.
Well, I'll tell you, I was sitting
Oh
up there.
God.
I was sitting up there and I realized how vulnerable you are up there. And I did kind of feel like what Charlie Kirk felt. Not that I'm claiming to be him or anything, but I felt like I was in that situation. You have all these people looking at you. There's a bunch of open area around you. And if someone wanted to do something, they could.
I saw
how
cops
felt
in the background.
first UFA thing right after the Charlie Kirk shooting. So like I was standing not behind Destiny, but otherwise I think it's calmed down since then.
Was that on purpose?
Not standing behind him. Yeah.
They have security there, but I think it's more for people like rushing the stage or something. But Yeah, I mean, you are a little bit vulnerable, so I tip my hand for anybody doing those kind of IRL debates. But it was a fun environment. It felt like my TikTok debating has trained me for that, and I was able to get a good
Hell
reaction
yeah.
from the crowd. So I think it was a good experience. I'm hoping to do a lot more.
Good for you, man.
But no, I don't have
What do
anything
you got
else
going
coming up.
More TikTok debates, right? Just
Just
daily TikTok stuff.
debate on today. I know Pisco, you came on there. How many times have you been on there?
Oh yeah, I have to do one more, and then I get access to virtual camera, which is what I really want, and then I can like do the stream easily with it.
Can you even bring
So
up
I've done like
guests
2.
yet?
Yeah, I can for
Okay.
whatever reason I can. And there was this one person, her name was Rita, and I put a video of it, and she was like, Democrats lose because they're evil. And so I forget what it was, but it's like it broke apart. And so I'm like, this is the intro into the TikTok debates. If that's like the caliber of most of these debates, maybe it's very different than what I'm used to.
They're pretty cringe sometimes. Yeah. Wait, Guy, you have all your
Yeah.
posters. Are you going to put up Gordon Chester for San Jose City Council District 9 up there? I see. That's like a pretty important race.
Who?
Gordon Chester
No.
for San Jose
Yeah,
City
Mike.
Council District 9. This could decide the fate of the country if the Silicon
Oh.
Valley butterfly effect
Wow.
projects to the entirety of America. And I
Oh.
mean, like Adam Schiff,
look into it.
sure, but Gordon Chester of San Jose City Council District 9 is, you got to keep your eyes on that one.
I'll
Big.
keep an eye out. I haven't heard about it yet.
Pisco, what's going on?
I
this
think.
week?
Yeah. So I'm gonna do that last TikTok debate on my TikTok account at Pisco Liddy, and I have some other potential things to announce in terms of event I'll be showing up at. I hope. We'll see. But yeah, just that TikTok debate, and then I might stream after this at some point too. So keep a look on my feeds.
All right. And oh my God, I think I might debate Andrew Wilson again against my better judgment on Wednesday. Modern day debate.
Wait, why?
Why what?
You should make me show up instead. Do the same.
Don't
Cedar
say it
thing,
now.
right?
Oh, we could have.
Oh shit.
Cut that. Cut. Producer, our
Cut
16
it.
producers and audio guys, cut that from the feed. But yeah, we'll see where that's going. And then on Thursday, there's a WIC panel, but more Hassan stuff. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
Pisco, are you doing that?
Why?
Or I don't know. I think you're
No,
invited.
I don't think so. Like, so I understand people will be like, oh my God, Fetterman over Hassan, that discourse. But like in terms of what we actually disagree on, I think everyone here agrees, push back against Hassan more when you do these appearances. And we're not talking about just like totally not showing up to those podcast appearances. And so I don't know. I feel like our prescriptions are completely aligned. And the only thing that we may disagree on are like these hypotheticals that'll never present themselves of choosing Fetterman or Jeffrey Epstein or Satan or Hitler over Hassan Piker. And like, I just don't understand what the utility is in those conversations.
I think it's
So
I
if
think it's
there
just
is-
a way. I think it's just a way to because like I think what I get frustrated with is because I think more people need to understand what he's about, like what he is fundamentally about, and I think that a lot of people just don't. Like, so that's where those conversations happen, like, or why those conversations happen.
So what is the prescription that is the proposition here that we're disagreeing over? That's what I want to know. Is like, is the
Recognize
prescription like,
the prescription is recognize that Hassan is invested in the downfall of the Democratic Party, and treat him like that. Like, just understand that that's where he's at, and it's more than the Democratic
So-
Party, like the downfall of America, And so, as long as you recognize that and go into a conversation prepared to have that conversation, then it's fine.
so it's a prescription about what one's belief should be. So one should believe that he wants the downfall of America.
No, I don't believe that he does want the
Oh.
downfall of America. It's not a belief. That's the point.
No, I'm saying you said the prescription is recognize X. And so is your prescription that people have the belief?
Don't
X?
treat him like he's just, like a fucking Medicare for all progressive lib or something like that. He's not. That's the point.
Okay, so push back. So treat him as though he should be treated in the pushback department. Fair?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you-
But then I just think we all agree, right? I mean, where's the disagreement?
No, I don't know. Do you have any disagreement, Hutch?
Again,
don't.
I think the
the
disagreement
different
is
wordings can set us off.
I'm
right?
disappointed in how people have interacted with him, but I don't disagree with them interacting with him.
Okay, so then it just feels like we're just trying to farm, like, and we've already had this like farmed content.
that's
the
content, baby. We
hypotheticals of-
farm shit. What do you? Yeah.
No, but
That's
like,
the name
no,
of the
the result of it is just it's stupid and it's boring to me. Like, just be like,
But
let's
it's
run 1,000
not.
hypotheticals. Like, do you?
Well, the
Well, but
important
it's
part
not-
is
look,
Pisco, when it
the
does
people love this,
interact and
man.
cross over with these politicians, right? When Hassan is influencing people to not vote for a Democrat in the general, when Hassan is like going to be on platform with these mainstream politicians that are going to have to talk to him, that's when it does matter past the, because I'm the biggest fucking stan of this is fucking boring. Why are we talking about him? But when it matters, I think it's important to talk about this kind of shit because it's like, oh, you're talking to Ro Khanna and Ro Khanna is the person who has influence in Congress. Well, you better not normalize the shittiest part of this person.
So Ro Khanna, so there's some element of this about advocating for our politicians to do a certain thing.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out, what do you want? You want our politicians to do to not be sympathetic to what Hassan says.
I want them to go on there and challenge him and say, why do you say these certain things? Here is explanation, and then give their response. And also for them to challenge him on why he says negative things about the Democratic Party and see what he says, and then just duke it out with him on that. That's all.
I couldn't agree more. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't really see where the disagreement is. If the
Because-
disagreement has to do with
Well, we haven't seen that. We saw Adam Mockler get a little close to it, and then he got charmed by Hassan and was like, "Yeah, Chuck Schumer sucks" or whatever. So
I think he just got
haven't
worn
seen
out.
it.
Chuck Schumer does suck. Chuck Schumer does suck.
No, but you don't go in there and admit, like, you don't go talk to Nick Fuentes and be like, you know what, I do have a problem with some minorities. Like, you don't give an inch, dude. You go in there and you
okay.
Like, you go in there and you swing.
The word is conciliatory. Adam was too conciliatory, I think. I think he was pushing back on some really important stuff. And then I don't know. I'm not going to assume Adam's intentions, but he was too conciliatory in that conversation. Yeah. And I think he backed off when he shouldn't have backed off.
And we love
Adam takes everyone at face value for better or for worse because he's a nice guy. And sometimes that's to his disadvantage because, like, a Republican will say some dumbass fucking shit. And he'd be like, oh, so you really believe that? It's like, no, they're fucking with you, Adam. They're like trying to trick you. And he needs to be meaner. That's my only criticism I'll ever have for Adam is he's not mean enough.
I think you would challenge him, Pisco, if you talked to him.
Of course I would.
That's what I'm saying. I want them to do what you would do.
Okay. Well, I think that's fucking great, and I support that. Then I'm just like not seeing the disagreement. Maybe the disagreement is like,
isn't the
Adam did bad?
If you do go on that panel, you're gonna find I know you're gonna get into disagreement.
No, because it's gonna. No, listen. The disagreement's gonna be on like the nature of what Hassan is. Hassan evil or not, or something like that, right?
I don't know where it's gonna go, man.
What is the thing is like, if there is some proposition or some belief, some prescription, some sort of thing to do or not do that is being proposed, someone should just say what that thing is.
I think it's about getting cozy. I think a lot of people are pushing back against the idea that you should get cozy with Hassan and try to like saddle yourself with him in furtherance of like a political goal. But the whole point is that he's not going to help you meet your goals. Like, he wants you to fail. You need to be clear-eyed about that. That's the thing. Like the people that are saying like don't talk to him, period, I think are just being silly. The other conversation, which I think is more reasonable, is like, should we be actively doing outreach and trying to court people like Hassan, and trying to court people like Hassan's like extreme audience? And that's a fair conversation to have, I think, going into especially these midterms in 2028.
His audience, I mean, like, isn't that the whole thing of the Joe Rogan and the show up to every place? And I thought that was like the whole realization, is that Democrats need to be in all of these different places.
No, there's a difference between being on a platform and being in a space and wanting to like court that space, right?
Well, speaking of people that don't advocate for things, right? Wrapping up, I forgot to plug one more thing, which is on the 10th. I'm working with Digital Ground Game to promote canvassing and reaching out to politicians and fundraising. So check that out. I think Destiny, Erudite, some other people are going to be on that. So if you audience members are like, damn, what do I do? Here's another opportunity. Can we do stuff? And we can all shit on Hassan for not doing it enough. So
awesome.
I gotta go, boys.
Well, good luck. Appreciate all of you. Hutch, really good to have you back.
Can one of you guys make a soundboard for what? And IRI scoffing.
The scoff.
I
hear the voices in my head and I just go crazy. Wait, one other thing. Last thing. Next week we'll have based Dylan Burns on the stream. He's going to be here, and obviously we all stand Ukraine and stand Dylan Burns, so that'll be fun.
Hell yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Welcome back, Hutch. It's good to have you, and we'll see